Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. Thank you for joining us, as always, my angle in moments. But first, whom do Kentucky Republicans trust more? Their 12-year incumbent Congressman Thomas Massie or Donald Trump? We're going to know soon because polls closed just moments ago in GOP Kentucky primary challenge that ended up being the costliest congressional race in U.S. history. $30 million was spent in total. And Trump, of course, supported Massie challenger, former Navy SEAL Ed Galrine, and hit Massie hard.
Thomas Massie's a terrible congressman. He's been a terrible congressman from day one. Dealing with him is just horrible. I don't think he's a Republican. I think he's actually a Democrat. He's not a libertarian.
And earlier today, Massie fired back.
Is Israel trying to buy an election? Miriam Adelson has spent so much money on my election, they're going to have to scale down that ballroom that she was paying for. And she was born in Israel. The Republican Jewish Coalition and the American Israel Public Affairs Committee have spent millions of dollars in this race on a guy that's never showed up for a single debate.
Polls also closing in Georgia, where Republicans will find out who's going to face off against Senator Jon Ossoff in November. Polls are still open across 4 other states. Bill Hemmer will be here in moments to break it all down. But first, let's go live to Kentucky, where Fox News correspondent Mark Meredith is standing by. Mark, I know you're at Andy Barr's campaign headquarters in Lexington. He's running to replace Mitch McConnell and has gotten Trump's endorsement. What are you hearing about turnout across the state for these races, these costly, costly races?
Laura, good evening to you. They are expensive. Forget the Bourbon Trail. It's the campaign trail that matters in Kentucky tonight. As you mentioned, where we are, and the big sign behind me points it out, is we are at Andy Barr's headquarters. He's the congressman who's running to replace Mitch McConnell, who is retiring in the Senate. He's facing off against the former Attorney General of Kentucky. But this race really started to sway Barr's way after he got the endorsement from President Trump, and that changed everything just a few weeks ago. But a lot of drama is happening about an hour away from here in the congressional district, the 4th district, just south of Cincinnati, where we've got Thomas Massie, Republican congressman who's been in power since 2012, basically fighting to save his political career. He is facing an avalanche of attacks from President Trump, who wants him out of there. Massie has been a vocal critic of the president for several different issues, both domestic and foreign policy related. And Trump is backing a former Navy SEAL, Ed Galrine, in this race. And what's fascinating, and you hit it right off the top, Laura, is the money that has been spent on this. More than $30 million on a House primary. That is a huge amount of money. But we'll also be looking to see more about President Trump's political strength in this, because Trump, including today, has been so vocal against Massie. And just a little while ago, he accused Massie of basically trying to lie to voters after a text message appears to have gone out indicating that there was a Trump endorsement from Massie. That was from several years ago. It had nothing to do with this race, but it created some confusion about what was happening in the 4th congressional district. But President Trump feeling emboldened after what happened in Louisiana over the weekend. He also made other endorsements. But what we're looking for in Kentucky here is to see what the margins are like, not only in the 4th district, but also here in this race to replace McConnell.
Sorry to interrupt.
Both candidates were
Mark,
running
we're
so
just
heavily on the
learning
Trump
that Andy
movement.
Barr has won the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate in Kentucky. That is official. It was a blowout against the challenger, Mr. Cameron. So, you know, the question here, I think, Andy, for Mark, of course, for a lot of us, is this sparring between Massie and Trump. People focus on the war in Iran, but it's a lot more than that. It's tariffs. It's border security. It's a larger view of trade policy. It's immigration. It's H-1B visas. I mean, there are a lot of issues involved in this. But, of course, the left is seizing on this, you know, the issue with the war in Iran, and they're kind of married with some of the libertarians on that.
Well, absolutely. And you mentioned the news, like you said, right here, when you called the race right here. And you even beat the people here to the victory party. They're not even here yet, Laura, which is kind of amazing that news happening right after the polls close statewide here in Kentucky. Kentucky's 2 different time zones. And so obviously now that the 7 o'clock hour has hit, those polls closed. But we would imagine some of those people will be flooding in here in the next little bit to hear from Congressman Andy Barr. But you're right. When it comes to Thomas Massie, the message we kept hearing from the president as well as his top lieutenants is that they felt that Massey was simply standing in the way of so much of the agenda and that they could not risk anything with the margins being so thin there in the House, that they felt like Massey was simply a thorn in their side on so many different issues. I go back to the tax package that happened just a year ago, last July 4th. There was so much drama that was going to happen because of Massey's vote and among a small minority of others. But Massey is not apologizing for his positions at all, Laura, and he says, of course, he has the conservative credentials to prove it. Laura?
All right, Mark, thank you very much. And results are starting to come in, so it's time for the Billboard, where Bill Hemmer, co-host of America's Newsroom, is standing by. Bill, okay,
Yeah,
all eyes
good
on
evening to
Kentucky.
you. Yeah, that's right. You know, and a lot of this really goes back to the White House and President Trump. President Trump endorsed Andy Barr. And the fact that you called him this early, Laura, it could tell us something about what's happening with Gowron a little later in the night. Listen, the attention of the political world has been on this district in Kentucky, Congressional District 4. It's in the northern part of the state, northern Kentucky. I'll just click on through the map here and show you where it stands at the moment. Race is too close to call. Just about 7% of the vote is now in. Ed Gowron, who's new to the political scene, taking on Thomas Massey, has about a 13.4-point advantage right now. It's early. Laura, you convert that into raw votes, it's more than 1,100, all right? But there's a lot more votes out there as we go through the night. Maybe over the next hour or two, we'll see how this breaks down. Let me go a little bit. Just give me a quick second here, Laura, and I'll just get our viewers at home a bit of an idea about what we're talking about here. Kentucky has 120 counties, but the 21 counties in northern Kentucky, across from Cincinnati, Ohio, right? Cincinnati to the north, Lexington to the south, Louisville to the west. All those cities are well known, but no voters in those cities vote in this district. Instead, what you've got geographically here is you have, whoa, what is that? Let me clear that off. You have the Ohio River as the border between Ohio and Kentucky and Indiana and Kentucky, and that's what comprises CD4. Of the counties right now, go forward. All right, okay, that's live TV. Greenup County is in the far eastern portion, Laura, and you've got about 2/3 of this entire district is considered urban. But the urban areas up here in Boone and Kenton and Campbell County is 2/3 of the entire vote for the district. So we're going to see across the river from Cincinnati how places like Covington are going in Newport, Kentucky. Those are the cities that vote primarily up in northern Kentucky. And everything down, you can just take a quick swath across the area. That's farm country. It's rural. All right, Gowron's from down here in Shelby County. He's a dairy farmer. And then Massey has a 1,500-acre farm over here in Lewis County. So this is rural America now with Massey up against Gowron. Let me pop out of here after we give you the geography lesson and go back into the race and let you know how it looks at the moment. We'll see whether or not anything has changed in just the last couple of minutes that we were talking here. CD4. All right, you're still at 13. Okay, you're at 13% of the vote now, Laura. So things are moving a bit more. And Gowron's lead has actually jumped, just shy of 14%. And let me flip over just so that we can get a sense of comparison here to what's happening on the Senate side in Kentucky. Just want to see what the margin is right now for Andy Barr and see whether or not there's, now this is a three-way race, not a two-way race. I get it, I understand that. But Barr overwhelmingly with a 33-point edge with the same margin of vote being counted statewide. And if I come back here to the House race here in Kentucky, once again, 13%, fewer votes, but a 14-point edge. I'm telling you right now, Laura, this is something to watch. You think about what the president did today. He endorsed Ken Paxton in Texas. Ken Paxton is in a really tough race against John Cornyn. That takes place a week from today. It's the Tuesday after Memorial Day in the runoff. In Texas, you had to get 50%, otherwise you go to a runoff, and that was the case for Paxton and Cornyn. In Kentucky, it's just a simple majority, all right? And Ed Gowron right now has got an easy lead. You think about this. Donald Trump has endorsed dozens of Republican candidates in races all across the country during the primary season. He has yet to lose one endorsement. Now, look, some of those endorsements are very easy. They were unchallenged. This, however, has been very closely watched because Donald Trump went to Kentucky in early March and campaigned for Gowron. He wanted to make sure. He's got a bullseye on Tom Massey and wants to kick him out of Congress after 7 terms. Massey was on with Dana and me earlier today. He does not apologize for any of his positions. You know, he believes he's a hardcore conservative, sometimes with libertarian leanings, that didn't want the U.S. involved in spending money overseas in places like Ukraine and the Middle East. And he's about to find out whether or not he wins an 8th term or stops at 7, Laura.
All right, Bill, we appreciate it very much. Thank you so much. And here to discuss, Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt and Doug Schoen, Democratic strategist and pollster. Senator Massey's record in Congress since 2012 has been generally pretty conservative. However, in recent years, we've seen on the issue of border security, I know he has his reasons because he said there was too much spending, but border security is key. Tariffs, trade. He has not been with kind of the more populist conservative base of the party. And then, of course, the issue of the war and the Epstein files.
Yeah, I think moving a Trump agenda forward, you got to remember, you zoom out here. Many people, not me, not you, wrote Trump off after he left office the last time. He brought back the most historic comeback in modern political history. No one's ever seen a non-consecutive term like this. And he ran on a very specific agenda, right? It was taking on the establishment kind of interests, illegal immigration, legal immigration in some instances. And so when you're trying to move that agenda forward, it's very important that you have a Republican Party that's aligned with where our voters are at. And I think that's really what the issue here is. And we still have more work to do. But you can object to a thing here or there. I just don't know if you can be an obstructionist on everything.
We're getting results in, and they're going to put them up on the screen when we get them. Yeah, it's still soon to call. Too soon to call for Galrine and Massey. Doug, I want to get to you on this because when you look at Kentucky, right, Trump blew the doors off in Kentucky. 2016, he won by 29.8. 2020, he won by 25.9 points. And in 2024, Donald Trump won Kentucky by 30.5 points. So this is Trump country. And Massey has his positions, I get that, but this is Trump country. And everyone who's gone against Trump, Mitt Romney, gone. We have so many others. Liz Cheney, gone. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But, I guess they gave it the old college try. But in the end, this is Trump's party.
Yeah, and Laura, that's a key point for my party not to forget, because Trump has the ability to motivate and mobilize voters. We're seeing it today. We saw it in Louisiana. And in a general election like the one that's coming up, turnout is going to be critically important. Right now, the balance of enthusiasm is on the Democratic side. But given these results and given the power of the Trump brand and his endorsement, I think we're seeing evidence that this could be a closer election in the fall than some of the polls might be suggesting now.
Yeah, and today Trump backed Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton for that Senate seat, posting that Paxton has his complete and total endorsement to be the next United States Senator from Texas. Ken Paxton will never let you down. What do you think about that, Senator? I mean, this Cornyn, it's a club up there in the Senate, but Cornyn is part of the club. He's more of a mainstream Republican. He's voted with Trump on a lot, but he's not been great on other issues. And I think President Trump, in the end, said he needs a real fighter up there.
Well, here's what I know, too. James Tallarico, who's the Democrat opponent there.
Oh, he's winning that. He's winning that. He's winning that nomination, obviously.
But we're going to win Texas. And the reality is this guy is a radical leftist. He talks about our border being our front porch. He talks about just because you're white, it's like a virus, you're spreading racism. This is Texas. I mean, this Tallarico guy is not running in the state of Washington or in Oregon. He's running in Texas. And so, President Trump's made his decision. The voters are going to have a chance to decide, but I think we're going to hold Texas no matter how it turns out here.
Yeah, and Doug, I know there are a lot of Republicans. The Hill had a piece today about how Republicans were upset about this. And the Republicans were Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and then John Thune basically said nothing except that's the president's call. So a chilly reception on the part of the old guard GOP because Cornyn was a member of that club. And their point is he would do better against Tallarico than Paxton. But I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that the world has changed, Laura, and I think Senator Schmidt is right. There is a level of frustration and anger in the electorate generally, and certainly the Republican electorate, that means that candidates who motivate the base have a chance to get a disproportionate turnout in a general election, that in a year like this, where there's a lot of dissatisfaction with the economy, a more mainstream Republican like a Susan Collins or a Lisa Murkowski could have a much more serious problem motivating the base and swing voters.
And Senator, Stephen Miller came out today, tough on Massey, just blasted him, as only Stephen Miller could do, on the issue of immigration. And look, there always is this tension in the Republican Party. More the business, the business types, the libertarian types, they want more foreign workers, they want more immigration, and the populist conservatives want less immigration and fewer foreign workers. That's just a deal.
Yeah, I think here's the truth. This immigration issue, it's not going away. It is sort of central. It's the one electrical cord for President Trump coming down the escalator until right now. This is where Republican voters are. It's one of the reasons why I focus so much on this. It's not just an illegal immigration problem.
It's an immigration
We have
issue.
a legal immigration problem with H-1B abuse, this OPT, we're replacing American students. The American people get it. They're smart.
Yep.
They don't want Americans to be at a disadvantage against foreigners. And that's what's happening in the employment sector. It's what's happening at our universities. So President Trump got this right a long time ago, and I think more of my Republican colleagues need to see the light on this and be tougher on immigration.
Well, and we're worried about colleges going out of business. I'm not. I mean, if they can't stay in business with American students, then maybe they shouldn't be in the business of educating our students at all.
Laura,
Doug?
Democrats are worried about immigration too. This is not just a Republican issue. It's an American issue. And I think that my party would do much better to heed concerns for border security much more than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris
It's a
did.
disaster.
Yeah, complete disaster. Correct.
Yeah, on MS Now this morning, they were ranting on about how Trump's rounding up law-abiding, legal residents, just rounding them up and like beating them up. I turned that on today. It's like, what are you talking about?
It's crazy. And just think, this week, the Senate, we're going to take up the idea that we actually, because Democrats have instructed, we have to actually go now fund ICE. So they were for defunding the police. They wanted to fund ICE. It's a lawless party. So when you have that contrast in the fall, I think Republicans are going to do just fine.
Lawlessness. It does not work with the electorate. Senator and Doug, thank you both very much. And coming up, Democrats lost voters. So what's their answer? Just totally obliterate the old system. My angle next. They still hate you. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Like a throbbing toothache that will not go away, Kamala Harris remains an irritant on the public scene. Does anyone on God's green earth think to themselves, now let's ask her for campaign advice?
This is a moment where there are no bad ideas. A no bad idea brainstorm is what I'd like to call it. And in that no bad ideas brainstorm, we talk about what we need to do and think about doing around the Electoral College. We talk about the idea of Supreme Court reform, which includes expanding the Supreme Court.
Well, talk about bad ideas. Now, for 50 years, Republicans, they had to deal with the court's Roe v. Wade decision at, 50 million babies lost? But you didn't hear many conservatives urge court packing or say that the entire court system was illegitimate. Instead, we marched, we lobbied, we worked to elect pro-life candidates, and we supported originalist judges. But that was hard work, took a long time. And Democrats, they don't like hard work. They do like meetings, however. And so today in D.C., they convened something called a Cap Ideas Conference, where Hakeem Jeffries reminded us how lucky we are to have Mike Johnson in as speaker.
The system is rigged against everyday Americans to benefit, the elites. And that's going to require massive campaign finance reform, massive electoral reform, and yes, massive Supreme Court reform as well.
Oh, sounds like revolution. Now, remember when Democrats say reform, that is what they mean, revolution. And their words today should remind every American which party coddles criminals and other illegal aliens and which holds them accountable. Yeah, Republicans actually believe in holding them accountable. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Smallfry, who presided over the winter of protests, continues to slander ICE.
A whole lot of thugs came to Minneapolis in the form of ICE and Border Patrol. They terrorized our communities. The goal here was not just to have ICE and Border Patrol leave Minneapolis and go to terrorize some other city. The goal, and every single person felt it deeply, to stop ICE and Border Patrol in their tracks.
Stop them in their tracks? Is that what he said? Huh. That sounds almost like a threat. The truth is, if they get back in power, they do not intend to do anything to help Americans because they want to break Americans.
Either MAGA extremists are going to break the country or we're going to break them. And our goal is to break them. We have to beat them electorally, and then we have to break their spirit.
Well, don't you worry, Hakeem, because Democrats have pretty much accomplished that already. Voters in blue cities are dispirited by your party's terrible leadership. And that includes entertaining fake questions about fake threats.
How concerned are you that he will send either the military or the National Guard or even ICE to polling places?
Very concerned. I'm also, my background's national security, so I think you should always sort of plan for every contingency that might cause a worry.
Oh, your background's national security. Now, one of her contingency plans is an executive order telling poll workers what to do if federal agents show up. They want some type of altercation. What a phony. I've never heard her addressing the concern or worry of Fairfax County residents as criminal illegals are protected by Soros prosecutors and idiotic sanctuary city policies. So the only ideas offered today included blowing up the laws, the rules, the traditions already in place in the United States. Because the Democrats, remember, it's very important to remember this, they view our entire system of laws as corrupt and illegitimate. And yes, that includes our Declaration and our Constitution. Because as a piece in Salon just argued, normal won't work anymore, nor will simply turning the page. Look, this article lays bare what the Angle has been warning you about for years. It is not just America they loathe. They loathe each and every one of you, all 77 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump. There remains an even bigger problem. The American people. Trump has run for president 3 times, and the number of Americans who voted for him increased each time. So the Democrats say that we must face the unsavory fact that more than 1/3 of the electorate has been molded after decades of right-wing media and fundamentalist indoctrination into authoritarian foot soldiers, the piece reads. And to ensure that nothing like Trump ever happens again, an idea that they're seriously considering? Prosecuting the South and treating Southerners like they belong in something akin to a Nuremberg trial, the way the Nazis were treated. Writing no relevant precedent existed, and given the unique crimes of the Nazi hierarchy, it would require ex post facto laws to prosecute them. So this is what they're considering here. Now, AOC clearly supports this radical theory with her recent Confederacy references. These people are absolutely reprehensible. They want to put Americans on trial. So the Democrats of the 90s, Bill Clinton Democrats, they were liberals, but they loved America, and they were generally proud of our history. They believed in borders, but today that's evaporated, and it's replaced by racial resentment peddled most frequently by their newest stars.
Is this a racist country, do you think? I think that racism is part of an inherent fabric of this country. And I think we have to be honest about that. There is a healing that can still take place from that. But again, to deny our history is foolish.
Now, when they say healing, what they mean is shakedown. You, who never owned slaves, have to pay people who never were slaves. Well, of course, it's never going to happen, the reparations. But the closer we get to Election Day, this happens again and again, the more they like to dangle those shiny objects. But perhaps Wes Moore just hasn't had enough political experience. So let's check in with Gavin Newsom, who has a lot of experience with how to run a state into the ground, but not so much with public speaking.
my state of mind is very much on this unfinished work that we have in front of us as it relates to redistricting and waking people up from this somber, this sort of, shock and awe, this overwhelm every day, being overwhelmed by another headline and another distraction. But what lies underneath in terms of what's holding up our democracy is in real peril right now.
Okay, I need to buy a vowel. I couldn't diagram that sentence if I tried. Yeah, he's considered top tier. Just let that sink in. If he knew how to save America, by the way, don't you think he would have started with saving California first? So while the Democrats are trying to sell the 3-day-old bread to a nation hungry for ideas, Trump continues to advance creative solutions to problems on everything from drug prices to retirement savings to beautifying a dilapidated D.C. And this stuff is hard. It takes an enormous amount of work, imagination, and planning, thinking. And in many cases, Democrats could join Republicans to enact legislation to make these solutions permanent. But of course, they refuse to. So to my liberal friends, it's time to love America enough to shake off your TDS and go back to the drawing board. And that's the angle. Here to react is Lara Trump, host of My View, which airs Saturdays at 9 p.m. here on Fox. All right, Lara, this is kind of par for the course for the Democrats. I mean, they want to tear down the system when they don't win under the current rules. How is that not revolutionary in a radical way?
Yeah, well, these are the Democrats of today, or the textbook definition of sore losers. To your point, whenever they don't get their way, whenever they lose, whenever they have a humiliating loss like in 2024, there's no introspection. Forget about that. They kick and scream and cry. And the solution they have isn't to go back to the drawing board. It's to rewrite the rules. It's to weaponize the courts to wield their power and weaponize the government in any way that will aid them and obstruct Republicans. I guess they've decided that instead of listening to the American people and what they actually want to have happen, it's easier to just abuse the system and kind of shove things down people's throats. You talked about Bill Clinton. This is a party right now in the Democrats that is so far gone that Bill Clinton voters, a lot of them, Laura, are now Republicans because this is how far this party has shifted. They should have done the audit in 2024 that we know the DNC buried. They didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to look at it for a second. They should have looked at themselves and said, what is it that we can do better? And what is it that our ideas are kind of disconnected from the American people? But they didn't do that. They buried their head in the sand. And now you see what's happened. The most radical in the party are kind of the stars of the party, the AOCs, the Mom Donnies out there. But this is why we need to make sure, as we head towards these midterm elections, people are taking this very seriously. You heard what they want to do. They want to pack the Supreme Court. They want to grant D.C. and Puerto Rico statehood. They want to eliminate the filibuster. They want to wield power exclusively for Democrats.
They're talking about
but we have to get out. We got to vote against it.
Yeah, they're talking about Nuremberg-style trials for Southerners. What does that mean?
It is something that I think most of us never in our wildest dreams imagined we'd hear something like that. But this kind of shows you the disdain that they have for people out there who voted for Donald Trump, the disdain they have for people who love this country, who consider themselves patriots, who want, to be proud of America. I guess that's a crime now in the Democrats' eyes. That's crazy stuff. We can't have a country like that. We're so much better than this. But we can be successful in these midterm elections. We in 2024 made it too big to rig. Everyone needs to get out. Everyone needs to vote because we have seen what the Democrats want to offer, and it's a disaster.
Yeah, well, they've just written off the South with the Confederacy comments and the prosecution idea, prosecuting the South, whatever that means. Laura, thank you very much. Great to see you tonight. And coming up, results are starting to come in. Key Kentucky races, we're going to bring them to you when we get them. Plus, is there a deal or no deal? The revolving door on the results from Iran. Talks underway. It's always hard to figure this out, but we'll bring it to you next. We are monitoring results coming in from all the key races tonight. We're going to bring them to you as soon as they come in. But first, today could have looked like the 4th of July in Iran, but the regime would not be celebrating.
I was an hour away. We're all set to go. The boats, the ships are all loaded. They're loaded to the brim. and we were all set to start.
How long did they know that you were planning the Gulf nations?
They knew I was getting ready to attack. I didn't tell them. I'd never tell anybody when.
You're in constant contact?
I never tell anybody when, but they knew that we were very close. I would say I was an hour away from making the decision to go today. So they called up. They had heard I made the decision. They said, sir, could you give us a couple of more days because we think they're being reasonable.
Iran being reasonable, really? Or are they just buying more time? Here to weigh in, Robert O'Brien, former Trump National Security Advisor. Robert, it's good to see you in D.C. Old home week for you here.
Good to be back.
The president said if a deal isn't struck in 2 or 3 days, we could unleash more strikes. And now Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, has said that Iran is prepared to destroy more U.S. aircraft if the two countries return to war, saying they have surprises in store.
Yeah, the only surprise they've got in store is how badly they're going to be defeated a second time around. So they're pretending and extending. They're going back to the playbook of Biden and Obama and Clinton. They've got another thing coming with Donald Trump. If they keep tapping him along, as he would say, tap, 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 they're going to get hit very hard.
Well, Senate Democrats are pushing forward with this war powers resolution, and they're trying to limit Trump's ability to continue operations in Iran. So it cleared this procedural vote today, 50-47, with Bill Cassidy on the floor as one of the 4 Republicans joining most Democrats to move forward the resolution. So that was Cassidy's last twist of the knife.
He'll be enjoying retirement, but look, the Iranians think they're going to get support from the American people, from the Democrats, from the media, and they have, but they're dealing with a different president, President Trump. And when he's given them, he's been very generous, he's been very patient with them, but that patience is going to run out. And you and I have both, Laura, you and I have both seen President Trump when his patience runs out. He's going to hit him very hard, and they better come up with a deal, give up their nukes, give up their ballistic missiles, and stop spending money on Hamas and Hezbollah.
How would you rate Rubio's performance in your old role as National Security Advisor?
I think Marco's doing a great job. You know, he was nice enough to have me into my old office, his new office, and he's the only person since Henry Kissinger who's held both roles, and he's doing a good job with both of them.
Unbelievable. Robert, great to see you as always. And coming out results, they're coming in. Back to the billboard next. We're just starting to get results in for key primaries across the country. 6 states, including Kentucky, where President Trump is pushing to unseat Thomas Massie, endorsing challenger Ed Gallrein. Now, it's the most expensive House race in history. About $32 million was spent, and it's still too early to call this, but Gallrein is up 9% so far. So let's go to Bill Hemmer, co-host of America's Newsroom at the Billboard. Bill, it's always a question of the most populous areas of the state and where the Trump voters really are here.
You got it. Well, I mean, in this district, Laura, the Trump voters are everywhere because he beat Kamala Harris in this district alone with 75% of the vote. I mean, this is deep red Trump country. Let me come back to him and his endorsements in the end. I'll make a point about that. But just so our viewers know at home, this is Congressional District 4. This is, let me show you, Laura, showing this earlier. So this is the Ohio River border, okay? So just below Ohio, just below Indiana. But as you look at the countywide here, you got 21 counties throughout the district of Congressional District 4. But Laura, if you were to look at the population center that you just mentioned, it is up here in northern Kentucky. It is Boone County, it is Kenton County, it is Campbell County. It's basically a suburb or mini city just south of Cincinnati, Ohio. You've got 2/3 of the vote of the entire district that come from those 3 counties. And at the moment, the problem for Thomas Massie, with about 50% of the vote counted, down about 8 or 9 points, he leads only, by the way, this is considered the urban area of the district. Everything else is farm country. At the moment, Massie has a slight edge in Mason County. There's only a couple thousand votes out there. And he has a slight edge here in Lewis County, which is where he has his farm, his 1,500-acre farm. So unless Massie starts making a move here in the rural area and starting to change the numbers here in Boone, Kenton, and Campbell, it's not going to blow Tom Massey's way. And you called the Andy Barr race early in the Senate. I think it's very interesting. You called it, I mean, really right after the polls closed here. Sorry, that's Georgia, a little too fast on that. Andy Barr is the former congressman around Lexington. He wants to succeed Mitch McConnell, who's retiring. And in these 3 counties that I mentioned where most of the people live, Andy Barr at 25 points edge there. In Kenton County, almost 25 there. In Campbell County, 25 points as well. Trump endorsed Barr. Trump endorsed Gilrian. We're about to see whether or not this Trump endorsement, twice in about 4 days, Bill Cassidy on Saturday in Louisiana, and Ed Gilrian, whether or not he can hold on and win here tonight in Kentucky. We'll let you know. Be back in a moment, Laura.
All right, Bill, thank you very much. We're going to keep monitoring. All right, coming up, a Trump hater just had his TDS cured. Jillian Michaels is here with reaction next. We have a Fox News alert. Thomas Massie trailing Ed Gilrian, the Kentucky House primary, by 8%. But now we're just getting a call in. Ed Gilrian has defeated incumbent Thomas Massie after Donald Trump endorsed Gilrian and a huge amount of money spent on this race. We're going to go right to Doug Schoen. Doug, I think we all knew this was coming. When Donald Trump gets involved in one of these races, how rare is it for a Trump foe to win?
It's very rare. And Laura, this sends a message to the entire Republican Party and indeed the entire country, as I was saying before, that the power of the Trump brand to motivate voters, in this instance, 12-year incumbent beaten by a newcomer because of the Trump endorsement. And I think my party would make a very big mistake underestimating the power of the Trump brand and the fact that, as you say correctly, he has not lost a primary yet. He wins Louisiana. He wins the Kentucky Senate primary, and now this key House race. So I don't think this can be overestimated, Laura.
Yeah, and look, I think we heard from Massie about, it was a lot about Israel, and this is Israel's race. It's not America. Well, the voters of Kentucky did not agree with that. I mean, it's their district. It's the fourth district. It's their vote. It's their view. They did not buy what Tom Massie was saying. It looks like with these results on the Israel, component of this, even on the war, even if they want this war wrapped up, they are giving the benefit of the doubt to Donald Trump over Thomas Massie, the Epstein file, all of that. Trump wins. Bill Hemmer is going to, hold on one second, hold that thought. Bill Hemmer is going to join us now. This is the Trump effect, is it not? Bill Hemmer, wake up, America.
It sure is. Laura, what I would say is that the tail end of that report a moment ago, think about Bill Cassidy, a senator in Louisiana, right? He's in a primary race in that state against 2 other candidates. And the president does not endorse Cassidy. He goes for the other candidate, and she wins. Bill Cassidy loses his primary. That was just Saturday. Now you got this unknown Ed Gilrian, who comes out of Kentucky against Thomas Massie, who's been in the public light now for 7 terms, 14 years. Now, he is knocked out. And then earlier today, the president endorses Ken Paxton in Texas. Why is that important? Because Texas has got the same 50% threshold, so they've got to have a runoff on Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day. Now, Paxton against John Cornyn, some of the polling suggested that Cornyn had a slight lead there. And you think today, after that endorsement by the president, that whole race could change as well. So in a period of 10 days, you've got the president weighing in on 3 significant primary races. In all likelihood, he has a chance now to go 3 for 3. And the reason that's important for federal office during the primaries, not the state level, for federal office, he has endorsed dozens and dozens of candidates, well over 70, okay? And some of those races, there was no competition, all right? But a lot of them, like this one, there has been. Point being, when the president puts his thumb on the scale of politics during the Republican primary season, he has been a winner every single time.
Well, what does this say to Lauren Boebert, Bill? Lauren Boebert.
Well, she came into Kentucky on Saturday. Rand Paul was there with his wife. Warren Davidson, a Republican from Ohio, he came in as well. all to campaign on behalf of Thomas Massey. And that was
well,
their
Trump
judgment.
threatened to pull his endorsement, right?
Yeah,
of her?
Right. And we'll see what happens in Colorado when her race comes up. But right now, Laura, this is a resounding victory for the president and the power he has now in the Republican Party at just about every level. Remember in Indiana, the state senators who nobody even thought about, right? When he endorsed almost 6 out of 7, 6 of them won, Laura.
Yeah, well, Raffensperger in Georgia looks like that. You know, he did terribly there. So
we'll
another
check in
Trump
on that
foe.
momentarily.
Yeah, that's good. That's coming up, but that's another one. We'll watch that result, but that is not going to be positive. My prediction is, in the end, for Raffensperger. Look, Donald Trump won the presidency twice. They tried to kill him. They tried to put him in jail. He's just better at politics than these other Republicans. When will they learn that? Maybe never. Jesse's next.
Welcome to Jesse Watters Prime Time tonight. What's going on in Iran?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable fighting fire with fire. Yes, we all want the better angels, but we'll lose our country. I can't celebrate July 4th.
Inside the Democrats' bloodthirsty brainstorm.
We need to form a rebellion, a true resistance.
Once Trump puts his name on prescriptions, we're all going to die, okay?
Happy TDS Tuesday.
Give me your f***ing hand!
Plus...
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Fox News Alert, polls are closing across the country. Major primary races going down in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky, where the AP projects Thomas Massey just lost. The results will tell us a lot about where voters feel about Trump and a lot about Democrats as well. And give us a clue about what to expect in the midterms. Bill Hemmer, co-anchor of America's Newsroom. What do we got, Emmer?
I mean, this is where we are. A race has been called for Ed Gowrine, a newcomer to the political scene. He's a dairy farmer in the southwestern portion of this district, Congressional District 4. Thomas Massey, meanwhile, is a very well-known commodity. He has represented this district for 14 years, Jesse. And the president endorsed Gowrine, and Gowrine, the former Navy SEAL. The race has been called. He's got about an 8-9 point edge right now. That may be very close to the final point, the final margin in this race. So that was an endorsement on behalf of the White House and the president. Also in the state of Kentucky, this thing was really no contest. It was a three-way race on the Senate side. In Andy Bars, the former congressman, represented Lexington, northeastern section of there. He's trying to go for the Mitch McConnell seat after McConnell announced his retirement come end of this term. Andy Barr was endorsed by the president also. And Jesse, this race was called within minutes after polls closed. Three-way race, Daniel Cameron, the former attorney general. Really, I mean, some competition, but really not much when you're around 60% of the vote. So the president tonight in the bluegrass state of Kentucky, he's got a winner in the Senate for Andy Barr, and he's got a surprise winner, too, in the House with Ed Gowrine. So Gowrine now goes to the general. A district, by the way, that went for Donald Trump by 75% of the vote against Kamala Harris in 2004. This is Trump country, Congressional District 4, and Ed Gowrine, in all likelihood, will go to the House of Representatives come November. And what is another victory after a presidential endorsement tonight, Jesse?
All right, that's pretty big news. That was an expensive House race.
$33 million.
What's $33 million?
A primary race, right? For the House at $33 million.
Wow.
Most expensive we've ever seen.
And Texas is going to get pricey, too.
Yes, it will, on the Senate side.
Open up your wallets, you donors. Hemmer, good to see you. Thank you. Fox News Alert, the president's been speaking with his national security team after calling off airstrikes at the last second.
How close were you to striking Iran?
I was an hour away. We were all set to go. You're talking about yesterday.
Yes.
We were going to be striking it would have been happening right now. Yeah, it was all done. The boats, the ships are all loaded. They're loaded to the brim. And we were all set to start.
Our Gulf allies begged the president to give peace a chance, but 47 declared a new deadline, Memorial Day.
I'm saying 2 or 3 days, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something, maybe early next week, a limited period of time. Because we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would start with Israel. They would blow it up, and they would blow it up fast.
The president's ordered his team to be prepared to bomb at a moment's notice, so it could happen tonight, Friday, whenever. Generals say the Iranians are going to wage economic terrorism until we take our fingers off the trigger.
Iran is attacking the Gulf states because they want that pressure put on the administration to stop the war. They got a ceasefire out of it, and now they're extending the ceasefire some 6 weeks, and they're absolutely convinced if they string this out closer to the midterms and oil prices continue to rise as a result of it, that the president may just wash his hands of the whole thing and declare victory. That's kind of what their objective is here. War is fundamentally about breaking will here, and they want to break our will.
The Persians are squirrely. They've been doing this for decades. It's like negotiating with an octopus who has amnesia.
They also are just a fractured country. So you have the leadership of the country, there's the supreme leader, and then there are a lot of officials below the supreme leader that has some influence in the negotiation. It's not sometimes totally clear what the negotiating position of the team is. And I don't know if that's sometimes bad communication, if that's bad faith. I wouldn't pretend to venture a guess there, but I will say with confidence, it's sometimes hard to figure out exactly what it is that the Iranians want to accomplish out of the negotiation.
The Iranians love the ceasefire. If we bomb them again, it hurts them. If we cut a deal, kind of hurts them because they lose leverage and risk a revolution. Iran's frozen on a war footing, and it actually freezes the regime in power. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper was on the Hill today, and he says they've been using the ceasefire to go on a killing spree.
We saw them kill tens of thousands of their own people, and since the ceasefire, we've seen them hang dozens of people. Gotcha. Just yesterday, you saw the chief of police proudly announce that they arrested 6,500 Iranians for no reason.
Trump has to change the status quo. Iran's wounded, they're cornered, but they haven't surrendered. Meanwhile, costs are going up, and Iran's using the ceasefire to flex on CNN.
These kiosks have been set up in each of these sort of squares where members of the military there, you can see them with masks on, they're showing people, in this case a woman, the basic skills of how to use what I think is an AK-47 or a Kalashnikov and things like that. Look over here, they're showing children how to use them as well. It's all part of a sort of state-sponsored call to arms in case the war begins again.
CNN's being used by the mullahs, and they don't seem to care. The network is not helping the United States.
It's all guns on state television too. It's several Iranian channels broadcasting their hosts brandishing assault rifles. They gave me a weapon so I could learn how to use it, like you, this anchor tells her viewers. After his on-air training, this presenter fires off a round into the studio ceiling.
Iran doesn't look like they're ready to sign a treaty. They're trying to bait us into a ground invasion and look tough domestically. It's their only play because their arsenal's almost gone.
Operation Epic Fury significantly degraded Iran's ballistic missiles and drones while destroying 90% of their defense industrial base, ensuring that Iran cannot reconstitute for years. And then finally, Iran spent decades and billions of dollars arming proxies. Today, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis are cut off from Iran's weapons supply and support.
The mullahs don't have the proxies or their sugar daddy. Xi's not so happy with the gay Ayatollah. He wants the straight open. But his boy Putin just landed in Beijing, and Pooty Poot's telling him, let's keep it closed. High oil prices are funding my war in Ukraine. But the blockade's still undefeated. Overnight, an Iranian blockade runner known as the Skywave tried crossing the Indian Ocean. Ship was loaded back in February with over 1 million barrels of crude from Kharg Island. Lloyd says Skyway was coming back from Asia. Unclear if they ever got a chance to unload. This is now the third runner that we've seized. And NATO's thinking about sending troops to Hormuz if the strait isn't opened by July 4th. Gas prices are putting pressure on the White House.
We are very aware that because of what's going on in the Middle East, gas prices have gone up, and a lot of Americans are struggling because of that. Our view is that it is a temporary increase. We're taking a number of steps to try to push back against it and try to ensure that Americans are paying as little at the pump as possible. But I feel quite confident after we've taken care of business in the Middle East, those prices are going to come down.
How much pain can we tolerate? Trump said it had to be done and should have been done by Sleepy or Hussein.
If I left today, it would take them 25 years to rebuild. But we're not leaving. We're going to do it right so that in 5 years, 10 years, if you have a bad president who doesn't want to do what's right to do, this should have been done by Obama. This should have been done by Biden. It should have been done by other presidents long before me. And everybody agrees to that.
The president wants this to end with the Iranians crying uncle, but the Democrats say we should be the ones crying.
What's the plan now to actually win this war? Because it feels like we're losing. It doesn't seem to be going well. And I would like to know how many more Americans we have to ask to die for this mistake. Do you know? I think it's an entirely inappropriate statement from you, sir.
The president's giving diplomacy time. A lot of people feel like it's been too much time. Either way, the White House is committed to seeing this done.
I think a lot of Americans, especially in my generation, who are worried about forever endless conflicts, we have to remember, I think you said 11 weeks, a big chunk of that has been a ceasefire. This is not a forever war. We're going to take care of business and come home. That's what the president's promised, and that's exactly what he's going to deliver.
Kirk Leopold's a retired U.S. Navy commander. All right. Do you think the Iranians are serious negotiators?
For 47 years, Jesse, the Iranians have never been serious negotiators. Every time they come to the negotiating table, whether it's with their nuclear program, their ballistic missile program, their support for terrorist groups around the world, making them the #1 state sponsor, they have used negotiations to obfuscate and to get time on their hands in order to leverage things to their advantage. And they are doing the same today.
I've been following it pretty closely, and it doesn't seem like their offers are improving. The president has to see that. Is there a strategic posture that he's taking to give the U.S. military time to rearm or gather more intelligence?
Well, clearly, Jesse, the U.S. military has used this time to train, to rearm, to refuel, to top off, get crew rest, get new forces rotated into the Middle East so that if kinetic operations do start again and we have to go to combat, we're going to be fully ready to do what is necessary in accordance with the Central Command Commander, Admiral Cooper, as well as the President of the United States. I think that President Trump is fully aware of what is being done. He is giving diplomacy every last chance, and we've seen that. But there is going to come a point at his choosing, at Admiral Cooper's choosing, where they're going to strike when the Iranians, again, least expect it, so that we can hopefully take out more of this mosaic defense. And now we're going to begin to strike more of the strategic targets that matter, the logistics, the transportation hubs, perhaps even some of their oil industry facilities, so that they won't have an economic capability in the future, and they will literally be reliant on the world in order to rebuild and have a country.
If we do resume major combat operations and then we pause, do you believe that the Iranians will cry uncle, or is it going to be more of this?
I think, Jesse, if we restart combat operations, those operations are going to continue until we have the Iranians capitulate and surrender, because we cannot afford to do any less. You have to take a look at the big picture, Jesse, because it's the nuclear weapon issue that is driving this entire thing. Successive presidents have failed to do anything about it. And at the end of the day, they cannot have a nuclear weapon, and it is whatever it is going to take by the United States, and eventually we're going to be supported by others. Clearly, Saudi Arabia and the UAE are conducting strikes, but they cannot afford to have it. Otherwise, you will have a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia, they can attain them because they've got the money, and they will buy them from bad actor countries that will give them to them. And then next thing you know, everybody is going to want to be nuclear armed. We cannot afford to have Iran continue to drive that scenario.
And do you believe that the Iranians, after enough military pressure, will hand over the uranium? Or do you think it's going to take some sort of special operation assault on that site?
I don't think we'll need an assault, Jesse. I think that as part of the negotiation process, when Iran finally realizes they have no out, that the leadership is going to be given an opportunity to get on their airplane with much of their pallets of cash that they got from President Obama as possible. And they're going to try and head out of the country, whether it is to Russia or China or elsewhere in the world. But at the end of the day, I think that when it comes time, the technical expertise to recover that material, get the centrifuges and get them out of there, we're going to have a cooperative Iran doing us at that time. And in fact, they're going to probably be helping us because by then, hopefully, the government will have been toppled. The people will have taken over. They understand they don't need that material or the path to that weapon, and they're going to give it to us readily, just like Gaddafi did in Libya.
What makes you so confident that the quote-unquote regime leadership is going to hightail it out of there with the golden parachute into a foreign country? You don't think it's possible for them to try to just hang on and still?
Oh, they could try to hang on, Jesse. I mean, they love to advertise that they're martyrs until they actually see the bomb sight pointed at them or the gun at their head. And then suddenly they'll find reason to live. And if they've got a way out, if they're given a diplomatic way out arranged by other countries where they're going to be given the safe passage, I believe that the vast majority of those in the government and even the IRGC are going to exit stage right, leave that country, and the Iranian people are then going to be given the opportunity to determine their future and their destiny, which I think that they will do a great job with.
I hope so, too. And I hope that they can be bought off. I hope they're rational and they want to survive in China or Moscow. Kirk, thank you so much for your analysis. We really appreciate it. Gavin Newsom's canceling July 4th. Fox News alert, thousands of people have been evacuated in Southern California as a monstrous brush fire scorches the region. Christina Coleman with the latest. Christina.
Hi, Jesse. Yeah, this wind-driven fire has just exploded in size as it burns along steep hillsides here in Southern California. It broke in the Simi Valley area near the Reagan Library yesterday. I mean, just go ahead and take a look at those intense flames. It's forced thousands of people to evacuate and thousands more to consider getting out of harm's way, including this man who just moved into his house over the weekend.
We're going to stay here till the fire reached the house, and then we're gonna just run away if we can't save it.
Crews are racing to battle the flames before the winds pick up again. This fire is about an hour away from the Palisades, where a deadly fire ripped through thousands of homes and claimed the lives of 12 people last year. And unlike the Palisades fire, no one is upset over water supply issues. Officials in Ventura County, where the Sandy fire is burning, say they have the resources that they need. And take a look at this video. In Santa Barbara County, a man was rescued by the Coast Guard in a helicopter after crashing his sailboat into rocks on Santa Rosa Island, where a wildfire has now scorched more than 16,000 acres. Officials say this is the largest fire recorded on this island in modern history. The fire reportedly may have started from this man using emergency flares to signal for help. The cause of this fire is under investigation. It's currently at 0% containment, so crews definitely have their work cut out for them. Fortunately, no injuries have been reported in either one of those fires, Jesse.
All right, Christina, thank you so much. Kamala's calling a meeting of the great Democrat minds. And it's BYOB. Bring your own brain.
We need to have a playbook that is born out of our ability to assume some risk, perhaps. I've been thinking about, we need to have basically a no bad ideas brainstorm.
No bad ideas is what you say when you're out of ideas. But Democrats decided to try it anyway, summoning their finest thinkers for a No Bad Ideas Summit.
Thank you all for the warm welcome. I love being in a room full of nerds. My kind of people. The four of us are doing the hard policy work right now. The nuts and bolts, the wiring. Here's how the pieces will work. Here's how we get the money in. Here's how we get the money back out. Can I get an amen on that one? We got to make them do this.
Kamala set the bar low at no bad ideas, but Hakeem just hip-checked his way through it, and he wants to break you.
Either MAGA extremists are going to break the country, or we're going to break them. And our goal is to break them. We have to beat them electorally, and then we have to break their spirit.
Hips wants to break our spirit. We lived through Biden, buddy. We're fireproof. But Gavin isn't. He just greased up and took the stage for his own little TED Talk. The title, Fighting Fire with Fire.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable fighting fire with fire. Yes, we all want the better angels. Yes, we want the Sorkin sound and music, little West Wing. I do. But we'll lose our country. We will lose our country. I'm done winning arguments. With all due respect to the niceties, it feels good, but we're going to lose our republic. Again, the founding fathers did not live and die for this moment. I can't celebrate July 4th.
Newsom may not be celebrating America's birthday, but he is lighting candles.
We have a responsibility. It's just like the issue of redistricting. We could have decided to write an op-ed. We could have decided, hold hands, have a candlelight vigil, win the argument. These guys are ruthless on the other side. Trump's not screwing around, and nor can we.
This was an ideas conference. Our producer watched hours of it. So I asked her, what were the new ideas? And she said, well, they really want to lower the cost of health care. Great, how? I said, well, she said they've got some bills. I said, well, what do the bills do? They didn't get that far. Democrats have been running on lowering health care costs for years, but health care costs are going up. They're out of ideas, even bad ones. That's why Mark Cuban just joined Trump at the White House to lower drug costs. At this so-called ideas conference, all they talked about was how they're going to fight Trump harder. How do you fight any harder? You tried to kill him, you arrested him, you impeached him twice, you keep shutting down the government. All they want to do is smack Trump around like a piñata. And if Gavin's leading the resistance, then Sunny Hostin's a rebel. She's building an army of her own in a galaxy far, far away.
And we are feeling the result of not having a resistance, of valuable resistance.
You do really have to watch Andor, let me tell you. That's
I
all
know,
about the
you've been telling me about
you.
Andor. We're such both sci-fi and fantasy fans.
It'll change your life, and it's all about forming a rebellion.
I'm gonna start that. We need to form a rebellion.
Do you think
a true resistance?
May the force be with her. And with Mayor Smallfry, who thinks he's General Eisenhower.
ICE is not just the federal police force that he's developed, it is his. And there's a historical analog here, which is the SS. They largely don't need approvals from the congressional body. It is very much Donald Trump's force.
The SS ran death camps. ICE sends MS-13 back to El Salvador. I don't get the comparison. It's a completely different job description. Maybe he's just confused. A lot of Democrats are these days. Just ask Michelle.
Country feels like it has a hole in it, and it's a little
like
rusty.
A hole in the car?
Yeah, like a hole in the car. That we're messy right now. That we're confused. That we're upside down. That's what it feels like.
Clay Travis is the founder of Outkick.com. Clay, are you just standing outside your house?
This is actually my old house, Jesse. I had a 5th grade graduation tonight. I went to it. I said, I don't want to miss Jesse's show. I don't want to miss the 5th grade graduation. But more importantly, I don't want to miss the opportunity to tell Sunny Hostin that her family owns slaves. And so from now on, I think we should refer to Sunny Hostin as the slave-owning Sunny Hostin, who tries to denigrate the rest of us whose families did not own slaves. You remember that moment when she found out that her family moved to Puerto Rico because Spain had ended slavery, and her family was so committed to slavery that they needed to cross the ocean so they could continue the slave trade? So this is the voice of liberal sanity, they think. It is slave trading Sunny Hostin. So I think she kind of perfectly embodies the Democrat Party right now. They have no ideas. They're anti-Trump, and they're lunatics.
You know, we watched the whole thing, and I just felt so bad for this producer. You know, she worked so hard. She watched hours of footage, And she had nothing. She said they didn't say anything. I said, well, what about AI? Nothing.
Yeah.
What about the border? Nothing. Immigration reform? No. Just hand out citizenship. They had nothing. You'd think after getting smacked around for the last couple of years, they'd have something.
Now, look, the Democrat Party, this is the problem. They've just become reflexively anti-Trump. And that's the challenge I think they're going to have as we move into the midterms. They don't actually stand for anything, and they were wrong on everything that mattered. They were wrong on defund the police. They were wrong on the border. Trump is driving down crime to a level we've never seen before in the history of this country. Washington, D.C. is on pace to be the safest country that the safest city that we've seen 250 years of history. And by the way, Trump's so focused on making D.C. better, he's trying to fix the reflecting pool. He's turning on fountains. Again, I think the Democrats are in a really tough spot because not only do they stand for nothing, what they used to stand for, they've been wrong on. And Jesse, this is why I actually think that they're not going to pick up Senate seats. They're not going to pick up House seats. You're seeing tonight Thomas Massie just lost. Being opposed to Trump is not actually something that the electoral voting public believes in. And so, look, I think Spencer Pratt's got a real chance in L.A. I think Steve Hilton's got a chance for governor. And I think there are a lot of good Senate candidates that are emerging that could end up taking Democrat Senate seats, believe it or not, come November.
All right, so Clay Travis is predicting on live TV the Republicans are going to run the table. They're going to keep the House. They're going to keep the Senate. They're going to get the governor's mansion. They're going to get the L.A. mayoralship.
I'm optimistic.
That's
I'm
very
optimistic,
optimistic,
Jesse.
Clay. That is, you know what? It must be the fifth grade graduation party vibes. They got you going.
I will say the fifth grade speakers were fantastic. The principal did get up and say, we expected all of you to graduate from fifth grade. I don't know about you, Jesse. I know your mom's a big fan of the Democrat Party. Did you have a fifth grade graduation? I don't remember having a fifth grade graduation, but that's what everybody now is celebrating. And honestly, I think a lot of these kids graduating from fifth grade have better ideas than the Democrats did. They have the "Are you smarter than a fifth grader?" Kamala Harris certainly isn't.
I don't think I was allowed to walk during my 12th grade graduation. I wasn't welcome. They did give me a diploma, though. All right, Clay, go back inside and have some punch. Voter fraud. We caught him. Fox News Alert, polls closing across the country tonight in high-stakes primary races from Georgia to Pennsylvania to Kentucky. And we're already seeing a major shakeup. Thomas Massie, a frequent Trump critic, defeated tonight by Trump-backed Navy SEAL vet Ed Galarian. Bill Hemmer, co-anchor of America's Newsroom. What do we got, Bill?
Hey, Jesse, bigger picture here, right? May 19th, that's today. You got 6 different states with primaries, some with greater significance than others. In all these states, Jesse, from Alabama to Pennsylvania, the president's made 3 endorsements, all right? I want to show you something here. Let me go to the homepage here and call up the governor's race in Georgia. I haven't showed this to you yet tonight, but let's see what's happening down there. By state law, you need 50% of the vote not to take on a challenger or avoid a runoff. So this is what we are right now at the moment, okay? You've got Burt Jones and Rick Jackson. Now, I bet, Jesse, that most people living outside of the state of Georgia have never heard of Burt Jones or Rick Jackson. I'm going to tell you why you need to care. Burt Jones was a state legislature 11 years ago in Georgia. He was the very first politician in Georgia to endorse Donald Trump's candidacy in 2015. Tonight, the president endorsed Burt Jones. Come on, it'll come back. Burt Jones right now is leading a man by the name of Rick Jackson. He's a businessman born into poverty, started a healthcare company, became a billionaire, funding his own campaign. These 2 men are now going to face off in about 4 weeks' time in Georgia. Okay, so right now, Trump endorsement 1-0 at the moment. Let me pop out of here. I'm going to take you to the Senate race, all right, here in the state of Kentucky. 3-way race. They're trying to replace Mitch McConnell, announces retirement. That'll happen at the end of this term. Andy Barr, an easy winner. They called it within minutes of polls closing in Kentucky. Andy Barr was endorsed by Donald Trump as well, former congressman from the Lexington, Kentucky area. But this really is, let me click over the House race here. This really is the stunner of the night. This is Congressional District 4. It's northern Kentucky. It runs right along the Ohio River. Thomas Massie has represented this district, Jesse, for 7 terms, 14 years. He was going for another one. And Ed Gallrein, a political novice, former Navy SEAL, a dairy farmer in this district, was endorsed by Donald Trump. And Ed Gallrein now has made the president 3 for 3. That's the story of the entire evening for this primary season tonight, Jesse.
All right, pretty significant wins for the president. We'll see how it shakes out. Thank you so much, Bill. The fraud files are back. Primetime's hunting down corruption, waste, and abuse. In Illinois, a mom rented a helicopter for her daughter's prom night. But the mom, Quintina Brown, works for the Parks Department and is accused of using tax dollars to book the chopper. An invoice shows she charged $800 to a government credit card. Quintina says there was no misuse of funds at all. She just wanted to give her kid an unforgettable experience. Police shut down the prom photo shoot. They say it landed in the park without a permit. One of Biden's special little projects is also getting shut down. Biden wanted to give sex toys to female vets. The VA said it was for patient recovery. The vibrators went for $360 a pop. Sorry, ladies, you are now on your own. Women were also getting busy in California. The DOJ charged Anika Armstrong with a felony for paying homeless people to register to vote in California. She allegedly went down to Skid Row, paid him just a couple bucks, and used her former address on the paperwork. Every time Democrats say something's impossible, it happens. And I don't think they were voting for Spencer Pratt. All roads lead back to the fraud capital, though, Minnesota, where the alleged mastermind behind the Somali fraud ring just fingered Ilhan Omar. She thinks Omar knew they were stealing millions, and in a jailhouse interview with the Post, she said, quote, "I struggle to believe that she wouldn't have known." Now, we don't know if Omar's part of the scam or what's going on in her marriage, but the frauds are he's on the case.
I don't want to prejudge an investigation. I mean, you read the things about Ilhan Omar and about, who she married and whether she didn't marry this person or that person. It certainly seems like something fishy is there, but everybody's entitled to equal justice under the laws. So we're going to investigate it. We're going to take a look at it. If we think that there's a crime, we're going to prosecute that crime. And that's something the Department of Justice is looking at right now.
It's not just Omar. Tonight, Nancy Pelosi might be sweating.
I am a big fan of banning members of Congress from trading stocks. So is the President of the United States. All of us believe that nobody should be taking proprietary information gained from public service and buying and selling stocks. We want to ban that process. And I think the way to lead by example is banning that process, banning that approach, and making it illegal, which is exactly what the president has proposed doing.
Happy TDS Tuesday. Happy TDS Tuesday, Primetime's second favorite day of the week. We're raising awareness for one of the most infectious mind viruses sweeping the nation, Trump derangement syndrome. Cases are flaring, and we've got the footage. First up, Irish Rosie says Trump's the one losing his mind while she's watching him sleep.
That frontal temporal lobe dementia is coming in fierce, people. Have you been paying attention to what he's been saying? Watching him sleep? Listening to him scream curses and belittle reporters? This guy? Time to do something, America, but I think we all know that by now.
Next, this actor thinks Trump's oranges are causing wars.
The big man saying my is bigger than yours, and I'm gonna bomb the out of you. It's a male toxic behavior that is creating thousands of dead people.
The ladies of The View, they need a prescription. But if it has Trump on the label, they're not swallowing it.
Once Trump puts his name on prescriptions, we're all going to die, okay? Yeah. He put his name on the Trump shuttle, the Trump vodka, the Trump University, the Trump Hotel, and my favorite, the casinos that all went bankrupt.
So you're saying that in the meantime, while he remains in office for the next 2 years, people should just not have access to cheaper drugs because Trump put his name on it?
Anything he touches is tainted. I don't trust it.
RFK is trying to find a cure. He lost a few friends to the disease.
I told my staff today that we need an ICD code for Trump derangement syndrome because it is a real thing. Yes. But I've had many friends come up to me and just say, I can't be your friend anymore.
Not all cases are terminal. Mark Cuban endorsed Kamala back in 24, but today he is recovered fully. He's working with Trump and doesn't want to talk about the past.
Do you regret supporting former Vice President?
I'm not going into my politics at all.
Happy TDS Tuesday. We got Water Schooler. Let's bring in Fox and Friends weekend co-host and author of the brand new book out today, All American Patriotism, Rachel Campos Duffy. And we are going to get to your book in a minute, Rachel. First up, though, United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione showed up in court this week, and so did a bunch of women with crazy eyes and press passes.
Brian Thompson. That's all I want to say. Brian Thompson, his mom.
His children are better off without him. They need to learn to not be like their dad and enjoy the blood money. He's responsible for more deaths than Osama bin Laden. And I remember Americans celebrating when Osama bin Laden was killed. It's not like we don't understand heroic violence or like when violence is good.
And we thought CNN was biased. One of these ladies isn't just a fake reporter, she's a fake rapper, too. Listen.
That's the cap in your back, yelling free Luigi till my throat is squeaky. Young, hot, and sneaky. I think we need a copycat. I printed Glock and spin the block of billionaires and body bags.
All right, we always knew women were crazy. But these women are not only crazy, they are dangerous.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when I was growing up in my bedroom, I had posters of, Marky Mark and Don Johnson and Bon Jovi. And now these girls, the heartthrob is a neo-Marxist murderer. And I think you're right. We have to take it seriously. The impulse that has turned these fangirls into Luigi fans, this is the same impulse that caused liberals and leftists to, execute Charlie Kirk and rationalize it and say it was okay. So crazy Looney Tunes, but we got to take it seriously.
So it's like a bad boy thing? You guys like bad boys, even when they're that bad?
Yes, it looks like it. I guess they think he's hot too, but it's dangerous.
Okay, yes, it's very dangerous.
And they should not have a press pass, by the way. That's insane.
Mondani gave him the press pass?
That's right, Mondani did that.
Okay, maybe next time we don't give the Luigi ladies the press pass. You give it to Fox.
That's right.
Probably not either. Next, Tom Brady is in leather. Rachel's really excited. The quarterback transitioned into a model, and he's strutting his stuff for Gucci on the catwalk, which is an interesting look, but he actually works for Fox, so I'm going to hold my tongue.
Well, I'm not. I'm going to tell you what I think.
What do you think?
He's good looking, he's hot, he's got the blue steel cheekbones and all that, but he should leave this like all leather, effete look, this metrosexual look to the Europeans. This is America 250. Embrace your, hunky, football, high school quarterback, football, all-American good looks. He should embrace prom king. That's what he should embrace. He should wear jeans, a tight T-shirt, a baseball hat.
So you're saying if Sean wore this, you wouldn't like it?
No way. I like Sean in jeans and a T-shirt.
Okay.
Maybe even, after changing a tire or something. That's the all-American look we need in America 250. This is very European.
Sean definitely knows how to change a tire.
He does.
Not something I know how to do. Or remember.
He'll
I mean,
teach
I knew
you.
it once. It's been a while.
You do shoot with him, though.
I do, and he's a good shot.
Yeah.
This book is a good shot. It's an excellent book. And it's out just in time. It's out now. All American Patriotism. Rachel Campos Duffy. Tell us about some of these chapters.
So each chapter is by another member of my Fox family. And one of my favorite chapters is yours, Jesse. You have to tell our viewers about the beehive trek that you took, because it's part of the story.
So my father took us hiking one day in Maine, in Acadia National Park, up this trail called Beehive. We thought it was just like a friendly little stroll through the woods. It was like a level 5 rock face climb with anchors for hand grabs. My sister was 6, and she had to be hoisted up like this. My dad almost killed us all. We finally made it to the top. No one had a heart attack. We made it down. It was one of the most harrowing experiences of my life. Why did I write this chapter in your book again?
Well, first of all, I love the fact that you, in the end, said your dad was actually more scared than the kids.
We didn't know any better.
You said that surviving anything, that's the American spirit, the risk that your dad took, and then you guys went up and you made your way back down, and now you have a story to tell. And all of us have an American dream story to tell. All of us have a reason for why we love America. Each chapter, you'll get it. It's inspiring. It's wonderful. It's perfect for America's birthday.
And it's perfect for Father's Day, which is coming up.
It's a great book. Order it now. It'll come in time.
Graduation gifts for some of the younger generation.
Yes, who needs to learn how to be patriotic. They've been through a lot of wokester years.
Yes, they could.
We're finally breaking the fever. I think this book is going to be part of the solution.
They could use it. All American patriotism. Rachel, thank you so much.
All right.
More
Thanks,
prime
Jesse.
time. Straight ahead. All right, so that's all for us tonight. DVR the show. Sean's next. And always remember, I'm Waters, and this is my world.
And welcome to Hannity. It is 9 o'clock on the East Coast, 6 p.m. on the West Coast, and it is primary day in 6 important states across the country as voters in Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, Oregon, and Pennsylvania went to the polls today to select their party's nominees. And today's results could have huge implications come November. In the hotly contested Georgia Senate race, Congressman Mike Collins appears headed for a runoff against either former Tennessee football coach Derek Dooley or Congressman Buddy Carter. The winner of the runoff will take on, well, Democratic incumbent, that's Jon Ossoff. He needs to go. In the race to succeed Brian Kemp as governor, Rick Jackson and Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones are headed to a runoff, and the winner of which will likely face off against former Atlanta mayor and Biden administration official Keisha Lance Bottoms, a name we have not talked a lot about. But the most closely watched race of the night, well, that comes out of Kentucky's 4th Congressional District. Right there, you have incumbent Tom Massie. He has now been defeated by Trump-endorsed challenger Ed Gowrine. Now, Massie has represented this red pro-Trump district for 14 years now, but has recently become an outspoken critic and regular opponent of the Republican agenda and the Republican Party, oftentimes voting with Democrats to stonewall the president's agenda. For example, his vote against the March 2025 continuing resolution, the one big beautiful bill, the largest tax cut in history. His vote for the against the Iran and Venezuela war by supporting war powers resolutions, repeatedly voting against any aid to Israel. Tonight, the voters of Kentucky's 4th District, well, they took advantage of this opportunity to right the ship. They delivered for former Navy SEAL and endorsed candidate, as we just told you, Gowrine, who will join us later in the program tonight for an exclusive interview. His background is amazing. Navy SEAL, incredible guy. I think you'll enjoy meeting him. Also, ahead of next Tuesday's high-profile Texas Senate runoff, President Trump announced his endorsement today of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton over incumbent Senator John Cornyn. Here to break down all of tonight's critical results, what this could all mean for November. He is our friend, the co-host of America's Newsroom. He's at his big board. Our very own Bill Hemmer is with us. Bill, what a night.
Hey, Sean, yeah, good evening to you. In the end, you're going to find that President Trump is a big winner here because wherever he went out and put his thumb on the scale, he has turned out to be a winner tonight. I'm going to start first with a House race. I'll take you to a senator's race and then a governor's race as we go around the dial here. This is Congressional District 4 in Kentucky. It's northern Kentucky. It's got Cincinnati to the north, Lexington to the south, Louisville to the southwest here. Okay, Sean? This district represented by Thomas Massie for 14 years, okay? 7 terms, looking for an 8th term. These are all the counties, 21 of them. At last count, Thomas Massie was leading in 1 county, and his lead in a 2nd county was razor thin. If that holds up, Gowrine's going to win 19 of the 21 counties at a minimum. A lot of these are rural counties here. They're deep red. They went for Donald Trump in a significant way in 2024, easily 75% of the vote over Kamala Harris. These northern 3 counties border the Ohio River with Cincinnati, Boone, Kent, and Campbell. That accounts for 2/3 of the vote for the entire district, and they have gone for the challenger, Ed Gowrine, as well. So that is 1 on the board for the president as he was trying to pick off Thomas Massie, and he's really been a target for some time there. Also in the state of Georgia, I'll take you over here to the Senate race. Andy Barr, you might remember him as a congressman around the Lexington area. He wants to replace Mitch McConnell. An easy winner tonight. It was a 3-way race. Again, in Kentucky, you just need a simple majority. You don't have to get that 50% threshold. So Andy Barr with almost 60% of the vote, easily defeating Daniel Cameron, who used to be the AG there in the state of Kentucky. The president also endorsed Andy Barr early on. So in this contest tonight, he's 2 for 2. Let me pop out here for a moment, Sean, and show
Bill,
you.
let me just add one thing, if I may.
You may go.
Ed Gowrine, the AP has now called that race and called it for the Trump-endorsed candidate, as you rightly predicted.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, I thought I got that. So that was 2 for 2, right? Gowrine and then Barr. Right. And then down here, let me show you this, okay? I think this is very interesting, Sean. In Georgia, these results are still pretty fresh. Now, Georgia's got the rule. You got to get 50% or more, otherwise you got a runoff. And these 2 men, Burt Jones and Rick Jackson, will go to a runoff 4 weeks from now, okay, because they did not reach the threshold. Burt Jones is the lieutenant general in Georgia. He was the first person in the state legislature to endorse Donald Trump, Sean, in 2015. Quite the claim. Rick Jackson, very much a newcomer to politics, raised poor in Fulton County, made a lot of money in health care. He's a billionaire. He's funding his own campaign. But Burt Jones got the endorsement on behalf of the president, which means so far tonight, he's 3 for 3 out of the White House in endorsements so far and getting people over the line. And we'll see whether or not Burt Jones can beat Jackson in 4 weeks from tonight. There is one other race tonight out in Idaho. Polls don't close there till 11 o'clock. Brad Little wants to be the governor in Idaho. He needs a simple majority as well. So we'll get those results much later tonight, probably around midnight our time here on the East Coast. But right now, when the president puts his thumb on the scale of these elections, much as he did on Saturday, right, with Julia Letlow endorsing her and knocking Bill Cassidy out of a Senate primary, it's something else, and perhaps it portends something that will happen a week from today after the endorsement of Ken Paxton, who's trying to defeat John Cornyn in Texas. Very, very interesting developments. I'm sure the White House is very happy with what they're seeing so far, Sean.
I think you're right, Bill Hemmer. We'll come back to you throughout the evening for any breaking developments. By the way, it was great to see you in China as well. All right, here now with more on his massive victory over Thomas Massie. We have Republican nominee for Kentucky's 4th Congressional District, Ed Gowrine is with us. Ed, you're a 5th-generation farmer. You're a Navy SEAL. You had multiple deployments with SEAL Team 6. You also were sent to Panama, Persian Gulf. You have 4 Bronze Stars, the Combat Parachute Badge for leadership actions in a combat zone. This is a huge win for you. Massie's been there 14 years. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, you left out that I'm a dairy farmer from the river bottoms here in rural Kentucky, and I'm really proud of that. That shaped me long before I joined to go off to be a Navy SEAL officer to make a difference. I had the audacity to think I could do that when I left and joined, inspired by President Reagan in 1983. And I was inspired by President Trump when I met with him only on 17 October. So do that arithmetic. And for the viewers, thanks for viewing me tonight, and let me share this story with you. So I met with the president on 17 October, Sean, and here's what he said. He said, Ed, when I brought up President Reagan and what a fan we were of him, he said, Ed, I don't have 2 consecutive terms like President Reagan. I've only got one to enact the agenda the American people have overwhelmingly asked me to enact. Every week counts, every day counts, every hour counts, every vote in the Senate and the House counts. Ed, you need to serve again. You need to serve your district, your nation, and your party. And then I decided to run. I was only in this race really for about 15 weeks when you pull the holidays out. It was a David versus Goliath. I was the underdog. I want to thank the president. I want to thank the conservative Republicans from this district and my supporters and team, because it sends a message that we, the people, are going to stand up. Thank you, Sean.
Well, it was great to get to know you a little bit earlier today on my radio show. You talked a lot about Tom Massie. We can go over his record. I mentioned some of it, you know, voting against the CR, the One Big Beautiful Bill, voted for the War Powers resolutions, which I think was a mistake, repeatedly joined with Democrats to stop the military campaign in Iran, and was just downright hostile towards President Trump, Mike Johnson. I don't think he would have had the stature or the relationship to go in and talk to Mike Johnson or talk to the president on behalf of the people. A lot of farmers like yourself, you're a fifth-generation farmer, and ask for things and negotiate things the way he was acting. So I don't think he was serving the people in your 21 counties particularly well.
Right, you are. We'd have to get the coffee out to run through his entire record of betrayal for the district, the party, and our nation. Simply put, what we'd say in Kentucky, because I'm pretty plain spoken, is he went to Washington, he burned every bridge, he burned a bridge factory, he ran off everybody that would build a bridge to the conservative Republicans. But again, the left-wing Democrats, the radical Democrats loved him. And his votes against our party and our nation go farther back. Now, I want to add one other thing, Sean, for you and the viewers and our conservative Republican friends out there. Remember, it wasn't just President Trump. President Trump, what, nearly 78 million votes in the presidential race, the most ever for a Republican president. He won 31 states, including the swing states, and also 312 electoral votes. And here in this district, President Trump won by nearly 85%. He stood against us, but he liked to just single out President Trump. All that to say, it's a new day. These people deserve better, and I'm going to give it to them.
Well, Ed Gowrine, congratulations. Welcome to the swamp.
Thank you.
We do need strong voices. I do think our founders and our framers envisioned, especially in the House, hardworking Americans that would go to Washington, serve, and go back to their lives. I do believe that. I think you'll do a great job. We appreciate you being with us. Congratulations tonight. Now, while Republicans move forward with a strong America First agenda and candidates, the same cannot be said for Democrats, who have now made extreme now the mainstream as this party now continues its radical shift to the left. And the man running for Senate, for example, in the great state of Maine with the support of many elected Democrats, Graham Plattner, is just the latest example. Democrats were apparently willing to overlook his Nazi-linked tattoo, but new reporting today shows just how absolutely, truly depraved this man was. According to a very explosive report from Fox News Digital, unearthed Reddit posts showing Plattner previously praising really disgusting graffiti of male genitalia, while also making a vile, disgusting admission about his own behavior. How do I say this? And your children can keep watching in porta potties. The worst part is those posts are not all that old. One in question was made in 2021, one in 2017. You know, both being posted when he was well over 30 years old. This guy is a total, complete lunatic. He previously appeared to blame sexual assault victims attacking rural white Americans, described himself as a communist. Still not a word of criticism from Chucky Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, or Democratic leadership. Just the opposite. He's being endorsed by people like, Bernie Sanders, etc. And in a recent interview with the New York Times, he even called for a political revolution. Take a listen.
You have talked about wanting to completely break the system as it works now.
We need a political revolution in this country. Without question, that is the only way we're going to effectively resist the Trump administration, but also the only way we're going to effectively build power to, I think, rebuild the American political system to be more representative of the average American.
Oh, we happen to be in the middle of one, and I prefer one that didn't have people that once thought it was a good idea to put on a Nazi tattoo. Now, Plattner isn't the only Democrat spewing more extremist rhetoric. Maryland Governor Wes Moore told Politico that he thinks racism is a part of an inherent fabric of the USA. Take a look.
Is this a racist country, do you think? I think that racism is part of an inherent fabric of this country. And I think we have to be honest about that. Now, I do think there is a healing that can still take place from that. But again, to deny our history is foolish.
Now, meanwhile, House Minority Leader, leader in name only, Hakeem Jeffries, is now refusing to tone down the rhetoric, now says he wants to, quote, break the spirit of President Trump's supporters. And here's what he said.
Either MAGA extremists are going to break the country or we're going to break them. And our goal is to break them. We will defeat them. We have to beat them electorally, and then we have to break their spirit.
Well, break their spirit. Gavin Newsom also weighing in, trying to gaslight the American people over the redistricting war, claiming they had to fight fire with fire. Speaking of fires, maybe you should think about hydrants with water and reservoirs with water. But why would he ever go to work? Take a look.
We have to be, dare I say it, I'm sorry, Democrats, that we have to be as ruthless as our opposition. We do. We have to win. It's all on the line. You just got to win. I'm done winning arguments. With all due respect to the niceties, it feels good, but we're going to lose our republic. Again, the founding fathers did not live and die for this moment. I can't celebrate July 4th.
His dream would be to make America just like California. That would be an unmitigated disaster. And of course, the left is still pushing comparisons between President Trump and Adolf Hitler and comparing ICE agents to Nazis and Gestapo. Now take a look at these disgusting comments from failed Minneapolis Mayor Smallfry back in the news. Take a look.
There's a historical analog here, which is the SS. The SS was unaccountable to the parliament. They answered only to Hitler. ICE also, once they get the funding and have these massive increases to the extent that it's larger than the FBI, they largely don't need approvals from the congressional body. It is very much Donald Trump's force.
Also tonight, President Trump has settled his $10 billion lawsuit with the IRS after suing over the illegal disclosure of not only his tax records, his entire family, every company owned by the Trump Organization, by a rogue IRS contractor who broke the law in doing so. And as part of the agreement to end this case, the DOJ rightly agreed to set aside the patriotic amount of $1.76 billion to settle other claims like this. In a statement tonight, the Trump Organization tells us that the settlement helped provide accountability for the illegal leak of the tax information of President Trump, his sons, and over 500 Trump Organization entities, leaks that resulted in criminal charges, prison sentences, and the statement also says the settlement sends a very clear bipartisan message. The weaponization of our federal government and our agencies will no longer be tolerated. The left acts as though the release of personal private tax returns and weaponization, that's okay? But first, back to our top story tonight. Let's bring in Texas Senator Ted Cruz. The president having a good night, and with small majorities, Reagan famously said it. I know you're a Reagan historian scholar, that if you're 80% for us, you're not my enemy. The problem with people like Tom Massey and others like him is they're almost never with the president. And with slim majorities, you can't accomplish things if you don't work as a team.
Yeah, look, Sean, that's clearly right. If you vote no 100% of the time, that's a problem. If you vote with the Democrats almost 100% of the time, that's a problem. We've got exceptionally slim majorities in the House and Senate. I will say in the past year, with President Trump in the White House, with a Republican Senate, with a Republican House, we have accomplished more in the past year than in any year since you and I have been alive. And I have no time for people that just say, no, 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 I don't want to do anything. The stakes are too high. We're not screwing around. This is not a game. If you want to just criticize everything, Go write an op-ed online. Go write a blog online. But if you're going to take a congressional seat, if you're going to have a vote, particularly if we had a 250-vote majority in the House, fine, you could vote no, it doesn't matter. But with the excruciatingly narrow vote, we can't mess around with this. We've got to deliver real results. And the message that I had to my colleagues over and over again, the message, look, I've spent a decade as President Trump's strongest ally in the Senate. And I'm focused on working with the president to deliver real results. And if you're not focused on that, that's a real problem.
It is a real problem. I don't think the issues that will define the outcome of this midterm year have even happened yet. And by that, I mean, I think the Iran issue will be resolved. The president will prevent them from getting nuclear weapons. I think the ensuing lowering of the cost of energy, that will make the American people realize it was short-lived, and that'll give them confidence in the economy. I think all the president's committed investments, bringing back manufacturing to the country, I think that's going to have a big impact, creating high-paying career jobs at a level I've never seen, 10, 12, 18 billion, whatever, $1 trillion committed investment money in this country. What does that do for the economy on top of energy independence, on top of the largest tax cut in history?
Yeah. Look, I think that's absolutely right. We have a record of success to run on, cutting illegal border crossings 99%, dropping the murder rate 20%, dropping the drug overdose deaths 20%, passing the biggest tax cut in American history, passing no tax on tips, passing no tax on overtime, passing no tax on Social Security. Big, big victories, passing the biggest school choice program at the federal level in American history, passing the Trump accounts, a generational transformational program, both school choice and the Trump accounts. I authored both of those. Those are going to impact and benefit millions of kids. That is a record of success. And the Democrats, sadly, look, they've devolved into a party that believes in nothing but hate for Donald Trump. Orange man bad is the essence of the Democrat Party, and it is infuriating. You look at Graham Plattner. This guy is a self-described communist. I'm not calling him a communist. He says, I am a communist. And this is somebody who put a Nazi tattoo on his chest. Not just a Nazi tattoo. By the way, not just a swastika. A Totenkopf, which is the symbol of the SS. It was interesting listening to Mayor Frey talk about the SS. Well, gosh, you're supporting a guy, your whole party is supporting a guy who had an SS symbol. Do you know what that Totenkopf was that was on his chest? It's what the SS wore in the Nazi death camps, the concentration camps that were murdering 6 million Jews. And yet, Democrat after Democrat is traveling to Maine. Elizabeth Warren, Nazi communist, he's my guy. One after the other after the other. They're utter hypocrites. You know, Sean, you and I remember when Roy Moore was running for Senate in Alabama. And I and a number of others supported him early on, and then serious allegations came out against him of sexually abusing kids and coming on to kids. And a bunch of us pulled back and said, you know what? We actually have standards. We actually believe something. Name one Democrat in the House or Senate who said, listen, I'm a liberal. I like high taxes. I'm for open borders. I'm for all that. But I don't support a Nazi. There is literally not a single one who said a Nazi communist is too much for me. For them, it is all about power. And is there any decency? Is there any soul? Actually, that's not fair. John Fetterman is the lone Democrat who has said enough is enough. Is there anybody else? I don't think there is.
I can't name one, Senator. This is a party run by radical, hard leftists, a squad, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth
and
Warren.
It's power, power, power. It's all they care about.
And what's worse is nobody will stand up to them. Chucky Schumer wouldn't dare. Hakeem Jeffries wouldn't dare. Their vile rhetoric will come back to bite them. They have no agenda that will appeal to the middle of this country, I'll tell you that. Senator Ted Cruz, thank you for being with us. And coming up, breaking news tonight, the Justice Department is set to announce the formal indictment of Raul Castro. We'll bring you a live report with all the details. Also, President Trump is once again showing America's strength on the global stage. We'll check in with General Jack Keane. He's next as we continue. All right, major breaking news tonight. Fox News has learned that the U.S. Department of Justice plans to indict Raul Castro tomorrow. Now, he is, of course, the former president of Cuba and the brother of dictator, murderer Fidel Castro, who led a revolution on the island back in the 50s that resulted in Cuba becoming the communist pariah that it is today, with more poverty than ever before. So much for sharing the wealth and spreading the wealth around. Anyway, here with all the details from Washington tonight, our very own Kevin Quirk. My understanding, Kevin, John Solomon told me this indictment has been in the works for a long time, and it is real.
Yeah, you nailed it. And this is so important. As you know, Sean, I lived in Miami. So for a lot of the folks down there, this is a major step toward justice that is indeed years in the making. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche expected to headline an event at the Freedom Tower downtown Miami, the 305, tomorrow, at which time the DOJ and the FBI are expected to announce an indictment has been handed up for former Cuban President Raul Castro. Now, it's believed that the 94-year-old and his late brother Fidel Castro, back in 1996, ordered a Cuban Air Force aircraft to shoot down a pair of civilian aircraft that belonged to a nonprofit group which carried out rescue missions to save Cubans fleeing their homeland. 4 Cuban Americans were killed in that action. Now, as you also know, President Trump has had his sights set on ending Cuba's nearly 7-decade-old communist regime, while at the very same time offering sincere help from the American people to the struggling people on the island, who for some time have been without energy and in many cases basic necessities like even food and water. And keep this in mind, Sean, like both Venezuela and Iran, Cuba has strong ties to China, and it's believed that the island's leadership for quite some time has been cultivating ties to Beijing, something the White House doesn't want, especially in our own backyard. Now, that announcement is expected to come in conjunction with a ceremony to honor the victims of that Brothers to the Rescue murder that happened back in 1996. It would make for a very emotional day for the folks in South Florida, and perhaps justice will finally be served, Sean.
The big mystery is why you would ever leave Miami for D.C. That's a big mystery, but you're always welcome in the free state
Duty
of Florida,
calls.
Kevin Quirk.
Thanks,
That's
buddy.
true. Thank you for that report. Now, President Trump isn't just focusing on Cuba. He's looking to promote and secure American interests all across the globe. Now, after announcing yesterday that he was calling off a planned military strike on Iran, the president said today that he's giving Iran until about the end of the week to come up with a deal that he will approve. Now, we have talked about this, and the president has laid out his terms over and over again. No more nuclear enrichment. All previously enriched uranium, that's 60%, the 900 pounds of it, must be turned over to the U.S. Iran must open the Strait of Hormuz, leave it open, and they must abandon their ballistic missile program. That would be good for Europe and the world. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Iran must stop supporting nuclear proxies, and Congress must approve this deal. You know, with reaction to all the latest developments around the world, our senior strategic analyst, our friend General Jack Keane, is back with us. General, I think what the president has been messaging the country, that list I just laid out, is exactly the deal that they'll have to take. I don't think he's changing his mind. I wouldn't expect it at all.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right about that, Sean. I mean, the president's not going to make a bad deal. I mean, he's the nation's backstop here for sure. But what's been going on here? I mean, we're 6 weeks into what was supposed to be a 2-week deadline to get a deal. And it just seems to be kicking down the road time and time again. It looks like the Pakistanis, I think, are working with the Iranians and offering incentives for us to make a deal. We're getting closer to the deal. But then when it comes to actually putting the facts on the table, there's no deal of substance there that we're willing to accept. And I think just for the sake of our audience here, for them to understand that even if we did make a deal, one of the provisions of the deal will be to unfreeze some of the assets, $100 billion, maybe not all of it at once, but some of it, and then condition the rest of it, and unfreeze the sanctions that have been imposed. And that begins to finance not only the survival of the regime, but the recovery of it. And that means we're dealing with them for years to come. So there's limitations to this deal. And the other thing we know after 47 years of working with them, Sean, is no matter what they sign on a piece of paper, the reality is they will work very hard and with major acceleration to do what? To turn that deal around, to reverse it, to cheat on it, to recover the ballistic missiles anyway, to recover nuclear at a secret site, to clandestinely covertly provide financing to the proxies. That's who they are. And the only way you could ever make a deal that would have a long-term effect would be if we were making a deal with other people, not these people who are running the regime. So there's limitations to the deal itself. And the president's not going to make a bad deal here.
You know, the president, I mean, there's nobody that will negotiate better. As he told me personally that he could wipe them out probably in 5 minutes, maybe 15 if he needs a little extra time. This seems to be the end of the road, though, General. He's given them time to get their act together. He, like us, I mean, he's a trust but verify guy. To me, that means anywhere, any place, anytime. American inspectors. Last word, sir.
Yeah, and the other thing that's going on here that may be a factor is what my sources are telling me. There's a concern that if we go to combat operations, the Iranians are going to retaliate against the Arab oil and gas fields. Well, if that's the case, the Arabs, if they need more protection, we can give them protection. We're defending Israel because they asked us to help them. If the Arabs need that kind of added defense in addition to what they have, I'm certain we can put a plan together to make certain that doesn't happen. And the other thing we can do offensively, just tell the Iranians straight out, if you attack the oil fields in the Middle East, we're going to begin to destroy and dismantle your energy infrastructure, starting with Cargill and all the energy infrastructure you have in terms of oil and gas on the mainland. We have all the cards here, Sean. We just need to play them.
All right, General Keane, always appreciate your time. Thank you for being with us. And coming up, we'll check back in with Bill Hemrys at the big board on tonight's huge primary results. We'll get reaction from Charlie Hurt, Ari Fleischer, as we continue. And this is a Fox News alert. We are continuing to monitor the results of elections in several different states tonight where Trump-endorsed candidates are having a ton of success up and down the ballot. Here at the very latest, all the details. He's at the billboard tonight. Our very own Bill Hemmer is there. Big night for Trump-endorsed candidates.
Indeed it is. Yeah, you're right about that, Sean. This is the primary calendar for the month of May. We're going to start here and we're going to end here for a reason, okay? Here we are on the 19th of May, 6 different states, still waiting on Idaho at 11 o'clock Eastern time. But you had an endorsement on behalf of the president in Georgia. That ticked the box. You had 2 in Kentucky. Both of those hit the box. And we're waiting for Idaho later tonight, whether or not the incumbent Governor Brad Little can return to office there in Idaho. Let me take you through what is the most significant race of the evening. And this was the big target, right? Tom Massie, Congressional District 4 in Northern Kentucky. We know after your conversation a moment ago that Ed Gowrine is not only the winner, but he is a proud Navy SEAL and he is a proud dairy farmer in this district. And he's, in all likelihood, going to go to Washington. I'll explain why in a moment here. This is the district. It rides right along the Ohio River, Louisville to the west, Cincinnati to the north. There's 21 different counties, Sean. Right now, Ed Gowrine leads in 19 of the 21 counties. The one county where Tom Massie has performed the best is Lewis County, where he has a 1,500-acre farm there, okay? And we talked about, you know, how red is this? These were the results in 2024. Donald Trump, 75 percentage points on top of Kamala Harris, who checked in just below 24 points. Now, this is a really red part of the country. And we talked about money, too. Talk about a green part of the country. This Republican primary, Sean, is the single most expensive primary ever. As of daybreak earlier today, they had spent $33 million between the two campaigns, and now we know the result here, right? Gowrine is in, Massie is out. I want to leave you with this, Sean, okay? We started with the calendar. I'm going to end with the calendar here in the month of May because I mentioned we're right here on the 19th. 1 week from tonight, in the big state of Texas, you've got a primary runoff between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn. We all know by now that the president weighed in on that earlier today. He's supporting Ken Paxton. I guess that means, Sean, that I'll see you a week from tonight, and we'll see what happens in Texas then. Ciao.
We're going to put that on the calendar. You're locked in, and we hope you will join us. Bill Hemmer at the Billboard. Thank you, sir. All right, here now, Fox and Friends weekend co-host Charlie Hurt, along with Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer. Ari, we start with you tonight. Obviously, that report, Trump-endorsed candidates do very well.
It's hard to defeat Donald Trump in a primary, isn't it? Anybody who really has clashed with him has ended up on the wrong end of the clash. And that's just a sign of how the Republican Party has changed into a populist, working class, much more blue-collar party. It is much less a college-educated, higher-income party, country club Republican Party. Those people are now Democrats. Republicans are increasingly that blue-collar group that Donald Trump put the populist touch on. He figured that out the day he came down the escalator.
Yeah, 9.8%. That is a massive margin against a 14-year incumbent. Charlie, your take on that?
Yeah, that's quite a walloping for a 7-time congressman to lose as an incumbent. You know, going into this year, I would say that, you know, the wins going against President Trump and the dominant, the incumbent party in the White House, you couldn't ask for a worse scenario than what Republicans are facing, just because it's the midterm elections of a second term. Trump's popularity, especially among Democrats, is, he's kryptonite among them. But what we're seeing, I'm seeing a lot of evidence that actually maybe Democrats may be heading towards completely blowing an opportunity to make massive gains in both the House and the Senate. And a big reason for that is what Ari just said, which is the Republican Party is incredibly unified right now around President Trump. And I think that bodes very well for the party, especially when you have Democrats, I think, in terrible disarray and embracing a lot of issues that don't matter or are very much opposed to by those working class, blue collar voters that Donald Trump has stolen from the Democrat Party and completely folded into the Republican Party.
Yeah. Apparently he made a number of remarks, even apparently tonight, about Israel and Tel Aviv and so on and so forth, meaning Massey. Ari Fleischer, I want to get your reaction to that.
Yeah, what Tom Massey said when he came out to give his concession speech was he apologized it took him so long to get out. He was trying to reach Ed Galrain on the phone, but Tel Aviv is a long-distance call. They couldn't find him in Tel Aviv. I mean, Thomas Massey is going to go out of office classless and clueless. To say something like that as if this is an Israel candidate. He's a Navy SEAL. You don't get more American than that. Thomas Massey has a real problem with Israel. That's fine. He can do that. But for him to allege that his opponent represents a foreign nation, he doesn't understand America. He doesn't even understand his own district. He's been drummed out of it. He never supported Donald Trump on anything. And don't give me that he's a libertarian, because he's not a libertarian. He voted against the tax cuts. He didn't support Trump shutting down the border. He has fought Donald Trump tooth and nail on everything. He might as well just be a liberal Democrat. But what he said tonight about Massey equals Israel is just classless and clueless, and that's how Thomas Massey should be remembered.
Oh, that's why he lost by 10 points. All about him. It was personal with President Trump. He had some radical, crazy views. And you know what? He wasn't serving the people in his district, and he was going up against an American hero. Hard to beat that. Thank you both. And coming up, a top climate change panel is now snapping back to reality. After we spent billions and billions and billions, we've been telling you all along they were wrong. Plus, Joe Rogan calling out AOC. We get reaction. Brianna Lyman next. All right, time for other news. Get this, a top UN-backed climate change panel is now waving the white flag of surrender, now quietly admitting the Earth will not, in fact, be destroyed by climate change. Shocker. Now, the original forecast predicted a drastic rise in sea levels, rapidly melting glaciers, global crop failures, and even the extinction of mankind. And by the way, that's after the 70s, they were telling us a new ice age is coming. And really, the climate change movement as a whole is now toning down the rhetoric. For now, for example, as we've covered on this program, doomsdayer Bill Gates now says climate change will not lead to humanity's demise. President Trump celebrated news on Truth Social, saying, quote, "For far too long, climate activism has been used by Democrats to scare Americans, push horrible energy policies, fund billions into their bogus research programs, unlike the Democrats who use climate alarmism nonsense to push their green news scam. My administration will always be based on truth, science, and fact." Here with the reaction. The Federalist elections correspondent, Brianna Lyman, is with us. So in the 70s, the coming ice age. Then the global, warming disaster, then generic climate change. We spend worldwide hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, wind, solar, et cetera. We have cheap energy that is more abundant than we'd ever need for hundreds of years. Are they ever going to pay us back?
Oh, of course not. And also, don't forget, you're in Florida. That was supposed to be underwater a few years ago. And isn't it so coincidental that now all these leftist activists are saying, maybe we got it wrong for the past 50 years, just as Politico reports that Democrats are actually backing off of the climate change narrative because it's so politically toxic and detrimental to their midterm chances. And it's amazing that Americans were told you had to give up your gas-powered car, your gas-powered leaf blower, your gas-powered boiler in order to save the climate. And all we got in exchange for that were higher energy prices. Look in New Jersey. You saw disinvestment in places like Pennsylvania. And then meanwhile, you have China, responsible for a third of the world's global emissions. They're not changing any of their patterns. Nothing we do here was going to make a difference unless China and India stepped up. And Democrats knew that themselves, but you know why they kept pushing the narrative? They wanted to line the coffers of their friends. Remember, the Inflation Reduction Act was going to fight the inflation that they created, and it said it was a climate change, kerfuffle, right? Then you also have the fact that they just wanted to see how much bigger they can expand the government. How far can they push that envelope to control your lives? And now they're doing an about-face because people are saying, you know what? I can't pay an extra $500 a month for energy prices. Democrats are just worried about the midterms on this one.
All these globalist groups, the UN in particular, I look at them and I can't believe their utter stupidity. How many hundreds of billions of dollars are lost here? The Paris Climate Accords, Russia and China are developing nations. We pay the freight and they go along for the ride and they pollute the air. The air in Beijing was not very good, by the way, Brianna. All right. Earlier this month, AOC made a bizarre comment during a podcast appearance claiming that no one can morally earn $1 billion. And in a recent podcast, Joe Rogan blasted the radical left's crusade against billionaires, reminding everyone that you too in America can be successful. Take a listen.
This idea that it's easy to become a billionaire and that these billionaires somehow or another are the problem because they're not paying their fair share is so weird that's a narrative that actually gets pushed through when you look at the actual numbers of the tax base and how much they contribute and how many jobs they provide. And yeah, they make more money than everybody else. Right. You could do that too. It's like this is one of the things that America is really good at. Right. This is a narrative that gets pushed along democratic socialists that no one achieves that. I think I literally heard AOC say this recently, that no one achieves substantial wealth without somehow or another victimizing other people.
Bottom 50% of Americans, they pay about 2% of our taxes. That's it. That means those evil rich people that are creating goods and services that people obviously want, need, and desire, guess what? People buy it of their own free will, don't they?
Yeah, and AOC's obsession with the billionaires has never been because of, poverty or taxation. It is about class warfare. She wants that Marxist dystopian society, and the way you kind of usher that in is through class warfare. And she has this, distorted view of the economy, which is that it is just a fixed pie, right? If someone takes from the pie, it means they took from someone else. That's not true, right? Capitalism means everyone has a chance to make that pie grow bigger, like Jeff Bezos, like Elon Musk. AOC is concerned about upending our social system to get rid of billionaires so you can replace capitalism with Marxism and socialism.
Yeah, until you run out of other people's money, as Margaret Thatcher famously said. All right, Brianna, thank you. And coming up, a new episode of my podcast dropped this morning. Legendary NFL coach Bill Belichick talks about his interview with CBS. We'll show you what he said next. Now, a new episode of my podcast, Hangout with Sean Hannity, dropped this morning featuring legendary NFL coach Bill Belichick. He addressed his infamous interview with CBS, which I thought was despicable. Take a look.
Like CBS, I was stunned at how horribly you were treated. I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it either.
I was stunned. I hope you sue him.
Well, you know, as we've seen recently, there have been more editing problems, and they go back to over a couple of years, multiple examples of editing and interview process and all that. You know, I thought that the interview I had with him was done very deceptively.
8 Super Bowl rings, 8, 6 as head coach. Check it out on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your video podcasts, and please hit the subscribe button. That's all the time we have. Set your DVR. In the meantime, let not your heart be troubled. Greg is next. He'll put a smile on your face. Have a great night.
Good evening. I'm Trace Gallagher. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast, 8 o'clock here in Los Angeles, and this is America's Late News, Fox News at Night. And breaking right now, brand new results from key races across the country, including the most expensive primary in congressional history, where President Trump's chosen candidate just took down a longtime incumbent.
Now my focus is on advancing the president's and the party's agenda to put America first and Kentucky always.
Plus, Iran on notice. President Trump warning that a new wave of strikes could be days away. Meantime, a top commander fighting another battle with Democrats cheering against the war effort.
I would like to know how many more Americans we have to ask to die for this mistake. Do you know? I think it's an entirely inappropriate statement from you, sir.
And Democrats pushing more politics in sports, calling on black student athletes to boycott Southern schools over congressional redistricting.
There should be no athletic participation as it relates to institutions that are housed in states that are experiencing a dramatic return to racially oppressive Jim Crow-like tactics.
But we begin with primary election night in 6 states. The senior national correspondent Kevin Corke live in D.C. with results from key races. Kevin, good evening.
Trey, it's great to be with you. No big surprise here, especially when you consider the president's feelings about Thomas Massie. House race in the state of Kentucky. Look at that, 45% for Thomas Massie, not nearly enough. Ed Gallrein is your winner, and what that means is Massie, despite years of experience, is on his way out. Now, because we're talking about the great Commonwealth in Kentucky, I figure, you know what, while we have a second, why don't we do this, Trace? I just kind of want to show you what's happening on the Senate side in Kentucky as well. Again, this is on the GOP side, and you know what? Let me pop it up this way, see if I can make that happen. There we go. Go here, right over here in the state of Kentucky. And I like this race for a number of reasons. Andy Barr is a guy that a lot of people felt like was going to really be the one to watch. He's going to take over from Mitch McConnell in a red state like Kentucky. Look at that number, 60%. That's a massive number right there. Now, if you found that interesting, you may find this interesting too. What about in the great state of Georgia? Well, Georgia is a little bit more unique. Some people didn't know if it would be Mike Collins or not. It will be Mike Collins. Again, this is a primary. That means he's got a runoff coming his way. It's probably going to be Derek Dooley, who's out in front of Earl Carter right now. But as interesting as that is, I wanted to stay in the state of Georgia for just a second, Trace, because I wanted to show you the gubernatorial battle in the Peach State. And this was fun for me because Burt Jones, of course, had the support of the president, 38%. He's going to square off against Rick Jackson in a runoff. But you'll notice down here at the bottom, Brad Raffensperger, former Secretary of State who has sparred with the president, not quite 15%. Back to you.
Kevin Corke, back to you as the results come in. Let's bring in Fox News contributor Kaylee McGee-White and Republican strategist Luke Ball. Kaylee, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it as always. Here's Ed Gallrein's victory speech in Kentucky, and I'll get your comment.
I want to thank President Trump for his support, his endorsement, and his counsel as I navigated this campaign, which is a journey of unto itself, and for his courageous leadership of our nation at this critical time. I want to emphasize that, this critical time and juncture in history. Thank you, Mr. President.
Pretty good evidence, Kaylee, that the president still carries a very big presence in the Republican Party.
Yeah, well, the good news for Thomas Massie is that I hear that Dancing with the Stars is looking for cast members for its upcoming fall season, so maybe he'll find some good use for himself there. You know, Thomas Massie has no one to blame but himself here, and I don't even think that this is necessarily all President Trump's doing. Remember, President Trump came out against Thomas Massie back in 2020 as well, and Thomas Massie came out on top of that primary challenge effort. What has happened here was Republican voters were making it clear that if they are going to send someone to Congress to represent them, they better represent them. And when was the last time that you heard Thomas Massie over the past several months mention a single issue important to Kentuckians? I can't remember a single time. He's been hyper-focused on niche issues like the Epstein files and Israel and things that maybe the podcast world thinks are great, but things that don't matter to everyday Kentuckians who are worried about common sense issues. And so that's what these election results represent.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, a lot of people said that he got off message and that maybe Trump put the final nail in the coffin there. Meantime, Luke Ball, here we go. We're talking about Hakeem Jeffries and the NAACP and others think that black athletes should boycott colleges in southern states, especially in the SEC, over racial redistricting. Watch Hakeem Jeffries.
In the absence of fairness as it relates to black political representation, there should be no athletic participation as it relates to institutions that are housed in states that are experiencing a dramatic return to racially oppressive Jim Crow-like tactics.
The way I read this, Luke, is that Democrat redistricting is righteous and Republican redistricting is racist. What do you think?
I think you've hit it, Trace. And let's be clear, the Democrats have been doing this through the courts for years. They utilize lawfare. They use the judicial system to their advantage. Suddenly, Republicans just woke up and realized we actually have the power through our state legislatures to use it to our advantage. The Democrats have been drawing districts themselves that look like blocks of Swiss cheese and have more liberals in them than a Portland Starbucks. So they are wholeheartedly disingenuous whenever they look at us and say that we are somehow racist for utilizing the power vested in the state legislatures to actually get stuff done.
Meantime, you had Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger signing another executive order banning state cooperation with federal law enforcement, including at polling places. Watch this.
Tomorrow I'll be issuing an executive order ensuring that we are putting out from the state level some guidance across public spaces, including polling places, of how Virginia state employees or people who are working in support of Virginia's state-run elections can react to, in this particular case, federal agents who might be appearing at a location and where the worry is that they're principally there to intimidate or scare people.
Yeah, so that's the theme here, right? Your voter fraud can be intimidating. What do you think, Haley?
Yeah, I think she's just decided to really lean into her new rating as the most unpopular governor in the country. Look, this effort reminds me a lot of other blue state efforts to prevent ICE agents from wearing masks or crack down on that sort of behavior. It's not going to legally pass muster. She has no authority over what federal agents can and cannot do, especially if they're assisting in the maintenance of federal elections this November. So maybe she has a little bit more say over how her state officers are going to do things during state elections, but she certainly doesn't get to dictate to the federal government what they're going to do in the administration of federal elections. So I think that if this goes to court, she's going to be on the losing side once again.
Yeah. Meantime, Gavin Newsom here in California says Republicans are ruthless and it's time to fight fire with fire.
These guys are ruthless on the other side. Trump's not screwing around, and nor can we. Yeah, it's uncomfortable fighting fire with fire. Yes, we all want the better angels. Yes, we want the Sorkin sound and music, a little West Wing. I do. But we'll lose our country. We will lose our country.
All the memes wrapped up in one little soundbite there, Luke, and in the bottom end, it's just, there goes democracy.
Yeah, they're upset that we have exposed their gambit, that we have exposed their game, and are actually winning in the hearts and minds of the American people, because what alternative do the Democrats have to the Republicans' messaging, to Donald Trump's leadership? They still have no leader of their party. They have no policy agenda, and so all they can do is be upset that we have identified just what they've been doing over the last few years, like redistricting and like advancing these ridiculous policies, and we've called them out on it. If Gavin Newsom is trying to run for president right now, he's doing a very poor job of doing so because he doesn't have any substantive solutions. He only has little sound bites that don't actually offer any leadership.
Yeah. Luke Ball, Kayla McGee-White, thank you both. Meantime, President Trump now saying the U.S. is going to end the war in Iran very quickly and that Iran wants to make a deal so badly. Fox Business correspondent Ashley Webster is live for us in Tel Aviv with the very latest. Ashley.
Hey there, Trace. We are waiting on the Trump administration to give its final verdict on the latest peace proposal from Iran. Earlier today, Vice President J.D. Vance telling reporters that there is one item that is just not negotiable, and that is allowing Iran access to a nuclear weapon. Take a listen.
If you have every country in the world scrambling to try to get a nuclear weapon, it would make us all much less safe. And Iran would really be the first domino.
So Iran is reportedly asking for a laundry list of concessions, including lifting of sanctions on Tehran, releasing of frozen funds, an end to the U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, ending the war on all fronts, which includes Lebanon, and reparations to cover the destruction caused by the war. But what's glaringly missing in that list is the issue of nuclear weapons. And without that, the Trump administration will likely believe it's a non-starter. Meantime, Iran's parliament laid down the gauntlet also today, saying that the Strait of Hormuz will forever remain in the possession and management of Iran. And that, too, will not go down well in Washington. Trace, back to you.
It will not. Ashley Webster live for us in Tel Aviv. Ashley, thank you. Let's bring in Israeli Special Operations veteran Aaron Cohen and Steamboat Institute Blankley Fellow Karine Hajar. Thank you both for coming on. Aaron, to you first. The back and forth between the CENTCOM commander and Democratic Representative Seth Moulton getting a lot of response today, and here is why. Watch.
What's the plan now to actually win this war? Because it feels like we're losing. We don't have a nuclear deal. We don't have the Strait open. The president has called for unconditional surrender. Is that part of the plan?
Congressman, we achieved all our military objectives. We're presently in a ceasefire. We're executing a blockade, and we're prepared for a broad range of contingencies.
Well, it doesn't seem to be going well, and I would like to know how many more Americans we have to ask to die for this mistake. Do you know?
I think it's an entirely inappropriate statement from you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron, the Democrats not only believe the U.S. is losing, but the U.S. is evil in the process of losing. It's kind of amazing, that back and forth there. What do you think?
I think the ridiculousness of the rhetoric listening to this between Admiral Cooper from CENTCOM, there's such a disconnect between the political rhetoric in the Beltway, between the operational trace, reality on the ground in the Middle East.
Yeah.
The Iranians understand one thing. The mullahs understand one thing, especially after the last 8 weeks. Pressure. For the first time in 47 years, they're actually at a table, and it's Trump's campaign, Israel's intelligence, the U.S.'s military might that have brought them to the table. And for D.C. to confuse the operational reality tells me one thing. They have no concept of what that pressure creates and how these deals are forged, which is that kinetic operations are the only language that the mullahs understand, Trace.
Meantime, Amnesty International, Karine, says the following, quoting here, people in Iran have been waking up to near daily announcements of executions. They weaponize the death penalty as a tool of political repression to instill fear among the population and essentially crush and stifle any dissent that there might be. Stifle any dissent. And it appears to be working, Karine. What do you think?
I mean, this is just their play. It's constantly been their play. The Iranian regime is willing to exact great evil on its people. It's willing to be patient while their own people suffer. And this has always been the injustice for the Iranian people, who have been quite brave and over again have risen up and have protested against the regime. I think it's also just evidence of we've been stuck with this regime for 47 years, and not only do they wreak havoc in the region and do they continue to be a national security threat for the U.S. and for our allies, but they are just willing to hurt their own people. And I think that that's proof that the president, there needs to be pressure. He has succeeded with maximum pressure in the past. That's not only hurt the regime itself, but its axis of resistance. And I think now he has military credibility behind that maximum pressure. He should not be at the table with these people. He should just be setting the terms himself.
Meantime, General Jack Keane says any deal with Iran will likely include relief on sanctions.
That extends the life of this regime. That means we're going to have these guys for years to come. Another administration will have to deal with it. That's limitation one. I don't think that's where we started. We're going to take this regime down and weaken it so significantly that they would be vulnerable to the resistance of their own people. We weren't going to make the regime change ourselves, but kind of put them on a path.
Yeah. So the thought was that they would at least be weakened, and now the thought is that they might be strengthened with money to boot.
Yeah, so here's where I'm at with this, Trace. The regime's core strategy has never changed. It's survive, buy time, rebuild capability, wait for political change in the West. The oxygen must continue to decrease, not increase. The nuclear, off the table, never on the table. My contention is that the sooner President Trump and the U.S. military in Israel get back to operations, the sooner you're going to see this ridiculous pushback that's been created because of this, what I'm calling tactical pause.
Yeah.
Pressure creates diamonds, Trace, period.
Yeah. Meantime, the Iranian President Pezeshkian says the following here: dialogue does not mean surrender. The Islamic Republic of Iran enters into dialogue with dignity, authority, and the preservation of the nation's rights, and under no circumstances will it retreat from the legal rights of the people in the country. We will serve the people with logic and with all our might to end and safeguard the interests and honor of Iran. He's justifying negotiations, Karine, because he knows in the end that Iran is unlikely to abide by all of them.
That's exactly right. And negotiations are exactly where they want to be. Even if there was a deal, we already know that the Iranians cheat. They're willing to wait out if this means suffering of their own people. And this is sort of giving me flashbacks to some of the Biden-era negotiations, where the Iranians kept going back and forth and putting bogus deals on the table. That's the type of terms that we're seeing from them now. Something that asks for money, that does nothing about their nuclear enrichment. Especially the money piece is important because, again, the lifeblood of their foreign policy is this axis of resistance. They want to cease the war in Lebanon. They want money so they can send it to their terrorist proxies, Hezbollah and Hamas. And the Trump administration just should not be tolerating this at all. Again, I don't think we should be negotiating with the Iranian regime. We've done maximum pressure before. Now we can back it with military credibility.
Karine Hashar, Aaron Cohen, thank you both. Well, the Fox News Tonight Common Sense Department is pretty sure California Governor Gavin Newsom is obsessed with President Trump. Every aspect of Newsom's political life revolves around Trump, blaming Trump, attacking Trump, mimicking Trump. But if Newsom decides to run for president, he won't run against Trump, and yet all he does is run against Trump. His social media accounts are replete with Trump. This week he called Trump, quote, an invasive species, and said Republicans have, quote, California derangement syndrome. Clever name, right? Where would he get that? Newsom says Trump, Hannity, Republicans, Fox News attack California out of insecurity. Common sense would suggest in California the word insecurity should be locked in the Voldemort vault, never to be spoken, especially when most people who live in California cannot afford to live in California. Maybe it's the little things like rent, mortgage, taxes, energy, all of which are among the highest in the country. But instead of trying to bring down costs, Newsom constantly brings up Trump. The governor's latest beef is about the White House ballroom. If Obama was building a ballroom, Newsom would dance. Instead, he rants. Common sense thinks maybe it's because the big, beautiful ballroom is going forward and the big boondoggle bullet train is going nowhere.
But we're going to lose our republic. Again, the Founding Fathers did not live and die for this moment. I can't celebrate July 4th, the best of Roman Republic and Greek democracy, co-equal branches of government, popular sovereignty, the rule of law, not at the time where it's the rule of Don.
Governor Gavin Newsom on why he can't celebrate America's 250th birthday under President Trump. Let's bring in former DHS spokeswoman Katie Zachariah. The statement, as you listen to it, it made no sense, Katie. I mean, you listen to it, I listened to it 3 or 4 times, it made no sense. It's just a bunch of stuff put together. His statement makes zero sense. Obsessed with Trump, he cannot help but bring up the ballroom. Every time the ballroom's got to be in, he just can't get enough of the ballroom.
Well, as you said earlier, imitation is the biggest form of flattery, and this is what he's done with President Trump. And might we remind Gavin Newsom that he has a $1.1 billion infrastructure project going in up on where? Sacramento, where nobody goes. Everyone is going to use this ballroom. And by the way, the critical infrastructure, the diplomatic compound and the fortitude that this is going to bring for the White House is so necessary. You were at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I was at Mar-a-Lago when these attempted shooters want to take the president's life. There is no greater threat right now than on the president, and we need this ballroom not just for nice events, but for security purposes for President Trump and every single president going forward, Trace.
But he hates him so much he just can't stand it. Steve Hilton thinks the California fraud is much worse than anybody imagined. Watch.
Our estimate is that in California, it's $425 billion of fraud in the last 5 years. That's an average of $80 billion a year, around 20% of California's budget. And we just got to accept that and root it out and cut it out so we can reduce spending from the levels we're at so we can cut taxes.
I mean, you said it was high. Everybody said it was high. That number is high, and that's the highest number I've seen. I mean, I think it's going to be up there, but wow.
Wow. Trace, I think I predicted $250 billion, and so this is almost double what I had predicted, and Steve Hilton is absolutely correct. The fraud is rampant, and President Trump just today signed an executive order restoring integrity to America's financial system, and California brings in greater scrutiny. Every sanctuary jurisdiction who thinks they're above the law needs to have complete election audits, freezing the finances of the state by the federal government, and an overhaul of their financial programs because they do think they're above the law and they're skirting all of these federal regulations. So, Steve Hilton, you're on to something. It might be $1 trillion.
Okay, meantime, let's talk about the big, beautiful endorsements because they apparently are working here. Here is soon-to-be former Congressman Thomas Massie. Watch.
We weren't running against Donald Trump. We were running for what we believe in. If the legislative branch always votes with the president, we do have a king.
Yeah, maybe John Cornyn might be next. We're going to see. But Thomas Massie, wrong guy.
Well, the term I coined on your show, Trace, is the big, beautiful endorsement by President Trump. And this showed with Letlow and Cassidy. And just today, my friend, Congressman Brian Jack, received President Trump's endorsement for Georgia's 3rd. Congratulations to Brian Jack. But Ken Paxton is the big endorsement of the day today. And what Ken Paxton has been with the president every step of the way, border security, election integrity. And there's nothing more important right now than the Save America Act. And Ken Paxton, as Attorney General, pushed for voter ID in the state of Texas, and he will continue to do that in the Senate. And I do believe John Cornyn will be primaried.
We shall see. Katie, thank you. Coming up, new information tonight about the victims of the deadly mosque shooting in San Diego now being hailed as heroes.
If you were Christian, if you were Jewish, if you had no faith, he didn't care. He would treat you human to human.
And later in the nightcap,
we will withhold the talent that play on the football field or on the basketball court.
The NAACP and Hakeem Jeffries want black college athletes to boycott schools in the South over congressional redistricting. Should we be pushing more politics into college sports? Let us know. X, Instagram, @TraceGallagher. We'll read your responses coming up in the nightcap. Plus, J.D. Vance takes it to the White House press corps while filling in for Caroline Leavitt.
Come on, man. Have a little bit of objectivity in the way that you ask these questions.
The briefing and the brawl next. Investigators in San Diego executing search warrants and talking to family and friends of two teenagers who carried out a deadly attack on an Islamic center in San Diego. Christina Coleman is live with the new information on this. Christina, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Trace. Police identified the teenage gunman as 17-year-old Kane Clark and an 18-year-old accomplice. They believe they were radicalized online before carrying out the shooting at the Islamic Center of San Diego yesterday. Officers say the teens shot and killed 3 men at the scene, including security guard Amin Abdullah, a father of 8, who exchanged gunfire with the 2 suspects, while the 2 other men who are in the community. They lived in the community. They helped distract the shooters. This trio is credited with saving 140 children.
All 3 of our victims did not die in vain. Without distracting the attention, without delaying the actions of these 2 individuals.
Authorities say the teenage suspects drove off after the shooting and then turned the guns on themselves. Their bodies were found in a BMW nearby. Officers also say they found hateful writings in that vehicle.
They didn't discriminate on who they hated. It covered a wide aspect of races and religions.
Police say the guns used were registered to one of the suspects' parents, and authorities also say they have not ruled out the possibility of charging those parents, Trace.
We're going to talk about that, Christina. Thank you. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and federal litigator Vic Bajaj and former Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. We'll get to that. I mean, that's the whole thing here. The FBI special agent in charge of the San Diego Islamic Center shooting had this to say. Watch.
The victims who lost their lives yesterday were there to help others, be part of a community that came together in peace. Instead, they were confronted by teenagers who appeared to have been radicalized online to believe that they didn't belong because of how they looked or where they worshiped. They couldn't be more wrong.
I mean, radicalized online, Sheriff, we heard that a lot, but not necessarily targeting religion, right? Targeting pretty much everything. The whole thing is the hate speech was pretty much hating on a lot of different things.
Well, equal opportunity haters, and the big concern should it keep everyone awake at night is what exactly is unfolding online, that there are people, and these 2 are a prime example, that actually would take that information, meet each other online because they did not grow up together, right, and then form a plot, a deadly plot, and actually carried out. And the only thing that was the saving, that wasn't a greater tragedy, was it was a hardened target with someone who was armed and ready to defend it.
Yeah. Meantime, San Diego Police Chief, we're going to play one more soundbite from him talking about the gun was owned by one of the parents or one of the suspect's parents. Watch.
I can tell you at this point that the guns were not registered to these individuals and belong to the parents of one of the individuals, and exactly how they came into they were able to obtain them is still under investigation.
A lot of guns, Vic. The parents knew the kid was troubled. They are the ones that called the police like, hey, what's going on? What are they doing with all the guns, and are they facing any potential penalties?
Well, they're definitely facing an investigation. As Sheriff would tell us, law enforcement will be in there, and they're going to look at the facts. And they're going to say, parent, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you saw your firearms? Parent, let me ask you a question. Were they locked? Because that is the first threshold. If the guns were not locked, either inoperable by a gun trigger lock or in a safe that the kids did not have access to, that is the threshold level. Yes, they are exposed to criminal charges if that, in fact, is present in this case. If it is not, and it is truly a aberrant behavior, aberrant example of potential violence from the children, and the additional cooperation by the parents calling law enforcement, it may not give rise to that. But I think they're in a bit of trouble here.
Meantime, moving on, here's the Vice President of the United States on fixing immigration fraud.
Effectively, what the Biden administration would do is say, okay, you're an asylee, go into the interior of the country, here's a work permit, maybe come back in 10 or 12 years for your hearing on whether you actually have a legitimate asylum claim. We didn't do any of the work necessary to ensure that the people coming into our country claiming to be asylum claimants actually had anything legitimate or anything good in their backgrounds. It is something that we have fixed in the Trump administration.
I mean, the whole concept here, Sheriff, is that they literally let in the Biden administration
They let in millions of people and nobody was checked. These asylum claims were never, ever checked to see if these people were legit, dangerous, you name it. Boom. And that's what they're cleaning up. That's what they're trying to clean up at this point in time. And the fraud is part of that.
Well, the fraud is so rampant that, and I really appreciate the federal government, but what they're doing 3,000 miles away is not the same as if we had 3,000 county sheriffs and 3,000 district attorneys investigating and holding accountable all the local crime that's happening that is being enabled by this just giveaway of, all this money with no checks and no balances and no accountability. That would be the best way to get rid of this immediately, but it's going to take a long time.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time. But, you took Steve Hilton talking about $420 billion in California alone. That's a bunch of money. So we do this pretty much every night. We have these teen takeovers. We've done them in Chicago. We've done them in New York and in Los Angeles, where the teens will take over a street. Yesterday, we played Chipotle, where the teens went in and had a brawl and took over a Chipotle. Now we're talking about a Rhode Island beach. Play this, if you will, because this is just the latest, and we'll play you some of the O thing. This is at a beach, Narragansett Beach in Rhode Island. And, the question here becomes the same one we asked last night, Vic, which we see these every single day. And after this, we'll play the Chipotle thing, where they destroy a Chipotle because they're in and they're just, there's a gang of them and they want to do harm. Are the parents responsible for this kind of behavior?
The answer is they can be. And again, it's a fact-intensive inquiry. And Sheriff can tell us also these are questions that can be directly asked to the parents. What you have here, as I look at it as a trained defense lawyer, is an absolute melee. This is a drunken melee. So the question is at the very beginning, who threw the first punch? Who initiated the aggression? Because you may have a situation where you have 30 or 40 people involved, and these individuals have a righteous claim of self-defense after the melee started. So we have a lot of work to be done from a law enforcement point of view. The sheriff can probably tell us anecdotes about, but at the end of the day, this is a drunken melee. And as Judge O'Neill in San Diego would often say, you know what, sometimes good people are caught in bad situations. That may be the majority. But if the parents knew that they were going there looking for a fight, if the parents knew or supplied alcohol or drugs or violated any other type of small infractions or misdemeanors, they should be on the hook. And if it were the case in California, the parents are subject to actual civil liability for their children's actions.
Got to be some remedy, because we do this all the time. Sheriff, Vic, thank you both. Well, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani under fire after his office issued press credentials to so-called Luigi Mangione fangirls.
You should be dancing on the graves of the people who profit off of killing you.
I, as the mayor, should not be deciding who is considered a journalist worthy of a pass and who is not.
New York City tightening the press pass playbook. Next.
Americans, according to recent polling, are increasingly describing the president as corrupt and trading stocks.
This is a hell of a question. There are different ways to ask a question, okay? You could just ask a question, try to get your answer, or you could do like a speech where you say, Mr. Vice President, you're a terrible human being, and so is the president. There were a lot of things in that speech masquerading as a question that didn't actually get asked.
Vice President Vance taking over his first White House press briefing, calling out a reporter for, as you saw there, long-winded, self-determined question. Let's bring in content creator, former Democrat Natalie Beisner, and political commentator Deborah Leah. Thank you both for coming on. Deborah, the media continues asking these questions, right, where they already have come to their own conclusion, but they don't want to hear the answer because the answer kind of messes up the narrative.
Absolutely, and it's great to see VP Vance pushing back against journalists who have spent years blurring the line between journalism and activism. And when you watch an interaction like that, it's not hard to understand why Americans have largely lost trust in mainstream media outlets, and the rise of new media we have such a rise in new media. When you see that, it's not journalism, it's political activism with a press badge. And I know I speak for a lot of Americans when I say we are sick of this political performance. Let's get back to facts-based reporting. Ask facts if you want to know the answers, and write a story. We don't need political performance in the press room.
Meantime, you had Senator Ed Markey saying that Trump is trying to rig the midterms.
Their plan ultimately is to put ICE on the streets of our country
for Election Day this year in order to suppress the vote of black and brown and immigrant communities all across this country. If he invokes the Insurrection Act later on before the elections in order to make sure that the Republicans win and retain power, that's his only protection against, ultimately, the kinds of hearings that would only rival Richard Nixon or Warren G. Harding.
I didn't get the detail in there. So they're saying that ICE is now going to go after legal voters in some capacity. I'm a little unclear.
I guess so. You know, it exposes, I think, that the Democrats are scared. They don't have a strategy. They're saying it's rigged before it's even happened. I think it's dangerous to tell black and brown Americans they need to be afraid to go to the polls because of ICE. That's not even a thing. And even if you are afraid of fantasy ICE agents, every state almost gives you a mail-in ballot quite easy. So no one's actually trying to take your vote. But I think what Markey and others are really afraid of, because he cages it as Trump is a bully, he's rigging everything, Congress members, Republican Congress members can't stand up to him. But it's not about that. It's actually about Republican primary voters keep siding with President Trump. That's not rigging elections. That's actually democracy in action. And I think it's exposing that they really have nothing.
It's the same as saying, hey, and by the way, don't play football at Alabama or LSU or any of these places because those are racist states and they're trying. Anyway, Luigi Mangione fangirls in New York got issued press passes. Here's a sample of the fangirls. Watch.
Brian Thompson. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I want to say. Brian Thompson.
His children are better off without him. They need to learn to not be like their dad and enjoy the blood money. This should have happened decades ago. Okay, this is long overdue. I had been waiting for someone like this mysterious hero to appear.
A lot of bleeps in there, but for the record, they were condemning the guy who got shot in the back by somebody else. That's the guy they were condemning. Deborah.
Yeah, as a New Yorker, this is a disgrace to City Hall to give these three individuals press badges. And they were saying that Osama bin Laden has killed less people than Brian Thompson. To not understand the difference between the American military taking out a most wanted terrorist who was responsible for 9/11 and a lone man, civilian, hunting down a father in the streets of Manhattan and shooting him with a silencer, at the very least, you don't deserve a press badge. And just some facts for all the Luigi psychopath fangirls out there saying he's some mysterious hero. Luigi is an Ivy League educated who was born and raised with a silver spoon in Maryland. His family is super rich. They own everything from country clubs to medical research. And on the other hand, Brian Thompson is born and raised in rural Iowa, spent 20 years working his way up to become the CEO of United Healthcare. And he was only CEO for 2 years. After Luigi started suffering chronic pain. So to blame him for all the downfalls of the United American States healthcare system is ridiculous, but expecting nothing less from these crazy, crazy people.
Natalie, guess who's back? Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis. He's back, and he's got the same old tune. Watch.
ICE is not just the federal police force that he's developed. It is his. And there's a historical analog here, which is the SS. The SS was unaccountable to the parliament. They answered only to Hitler. ICE, also, once they get the funding and have these massive increases, they largely don't need approvals from the congressional body. It is very much Donald Trump's force.
I should have checked the markets on this, the betting markets, because you know Hitler and Nazis was going to come up in Jacob Frey's spiel there.
Yeah, I feel like a broken record because they feel like a broken record. And then he wonders why there was violence and unrest in his city.
Right.
I mean, there's no comparison between federal agents enforcing immigration law passed by Congress and what happened to Jewish citizens during Nazi Germany. And if there were, he wouldn't be on stage in front of a camera saying it. It starts to sound trite, but this goes back to what we just talked about with Mangione. This is what normalizes and justifies political violence. It does matter.
It really does. That's exactly right, because when you start propagating these things and saying it's totally normalized, it's totally fine, you can have whatever belief you want, even when you hurt somebody else, that's the downfall of society. Deborah, Natalie, thank you both. The NAACP wants black college athletes to boycott schools in the South over congressional redistricting. Should we be pushing more politics into college sports, onto college athletes? Let us know. Instagram, @Trace Gallagher. Back with the Nightcap crew. It always includes you. It's next. Back with the Nightcap crew, Deborah Leah, Christina Coleman, Aaron Cohen, Katie Zachariah, Vic Bajaj, and Natalie Beisner. The NAACP wants black college athletes to boycott schools in the South over congressional redistricting. Should we be pushing more politics into college sports? Deborah.
Absolutely less politics in college sports, and I think black college athletes should go to whatever school gives them the best opportunity for their future in America.
Yeah, Christina.
This is a bad idea. These kids need to focus on their academics and athletics. That's it.
What are we doing, Vic? Just saying.
Think for yourself, or others will think for you, and they'll forget to think about you. Make up your own mind and educate yourself.
Good, good. Natalie?
No, just let the kids play. It's also not racism to not draw the lines based on skin color.
No.
That helps.
It's Katie.
To quote Justice Thomas in Louisiana v. Calais, he said the approach of the racial gerrymandering is repugnant to a colorblind constitution. I agree with that.
Smarty pants, there you go. Look at that. Nice. Aaron.
I think Americans are exhausted with politics consuming literally everything, Trace.
Yeah, let it go. Meantime, Jonathan Fahey says athletes and other celebrities weighing in on political issues is not just tiresome, but wholly unpersuasive. Robin, nope, too much politics bleeding over into education. Mr. Impossible, no. Another very bad idea from the Democrats. Leave it to them to pit different groups against each other. Naz says not a chance. There's way too much politics in our society as it is. Alan, the NAACP is seriously wrong on this. College sports should be free of politics. The universities in the South had no part in the redistricting. Leo, they should change their name to National Association of Absolutely Crazy Politics. I'm sending the NAACP to the penalty box. And Eric, politics has no place in sports. We watch sports to escape the political world. Thank you for watching America's Late News, Fox News at Night. I'm Trace Gallagher in Los Angeles. We'll see you tomorrow.